Hello everyone, welcome to today's Still Space. Today I want to share this sunscreen with you. This brand of sunscreen has been very popular on the internet recently. It's the first time I use it. This time I just try its film speed. Sue still carefully squeezed a lump of sunscreen from the bottle, squeezed it into the palm of his hand, put his hands together, emulsified and warmed up, wiped it on his face, and smiled at the camera while wiping. It feels good. I am combination skin, it feels very refreshing on the face. At this time, the phone ring rang at an untimely time behind her. Sue still had just applied half of the sunscreen. She tried to ignore the call and continued to apply the remaining half to the camera. This cream is still very easy to apply, it's very delicate. Who knows that the person who called was unwilling to forgive, and he didn't answer the first time, and immediately called a second time. Sue Yiren sighed in appointment, reached out and turned off the camera, took the phone that was thrown behind his back, and the two on it the big character Jing Jing. Sue still picked up the phone. What's the matter? I'm recording a video, I just wiped off the sunscreen halfway. Ren Jing Jing has been her best friend for many years. The two have been in the same class since high school. When they were in college, they met to be admitted to different universities in Yangcheng. Sue still majored in English with Wang Jinyu, and the coursework was relatively easy, but Sue still made mistakes. She started fiddling around and recording beauty videos. Maybe she was lucky, or maybe she entered the industry early. After graduating from college, she became a well-known beauty blogger. She simply recorded videos full-time. In the beauty industry, a net herd of this acre of land can be considered reasonable. Ren Jing Jing followed the rules to find a job and became a small screw in a book publishing company. The friendship between the two has been maintained for 7 years, and Ren Jing Jing has expressed 800 times of speechlessness about her amnesia. Miss Sue, blogger Sue, we already agreed that I will invite you to dinner today, do you remember? Sue Yiren slapped his forehead. Oh, it seems that this is the case. I forgot that this month was the first time Ren Jing Jing got a salary. Originally, he wanted to invite Sue Yiren to have a big dinner to celebrate. She cut the video last night until midnight, went to bed at dawn, woke up this afternoon, and received a Haidao package from abroad. There were several new products in it that she wanted to try, so she simply recorded an unboxing video, which was affordable. Seeing, completely forgot about having dinner with Ren Jing Jing tonight. Sue Yiren jumped up from the ground with the phone on his shoulders, ran to the door of the room in 2 steps and started putting on his shoes. I'm sorry Jing Jing, I forgot, where are you now? I'll go out right now, we said we were going to eat last time. What's coming? Ren Jing Jing shook her head helplessly. What else could she say? It wasn't the first day she met, so how could she not know her virtues? When you make a mistake, talking sweetly is like not wanting money. Ren Jing Jing, I'm already here, Haneda restaurant is waiting for you, hurry up. Okay, I'll be there in 15 minutes. Thanks to the video I was recording just now, I was all dressed up, a simple and refreshing t-shirt and denim shorts, revealing a pair of white and thin legs. Sue is still in front of the shoe cabinet, showing his extraordinary flexibility. The golden rooster is independent, put his long legs on the narrow shoe cabinet, bent down, put on shoes with one hand, and took out a tube of lipstick from the bag with the other. No need to look at it. Mirror, deftly began to blindly paint. The upper and lower lips were lightly boomed. No need to look, the lipstick must be full and perfect. After all, it is also relying on makeup to eat. Sue still quickly put on the other shoe and looked at the table below. At 5:30 in the afternoon, she locked the door and ran downstairs. Going downstairs to take a taxi, as a full-time beauty blogger, Miss Sue has obviously been away from the morning and evening rush hour for a long time. She got into the car full of joy, and after a while, she stared blankly at the motionless traffic in front of her. She couldn't help but ask the driver, "Master, is this road so blocked every day?" The driver held the steering wheel and moved forward at a turtle speed. "You came out at the wrong time. This evening rush hour is very congested. There is no other way but to wait. Su still sighed, lowered his head and sent a message to Ren Jingjing, I'm sorry Jingjing, I'm stuck in traffic, you have to wait for me for a while. Ren Jingjing replied in seconds, I expected it, followed by a little pig humming. Su still returned a sincere expression. At this time, the car in the next lane moved forward slightly, and a low-key black car slowly drove behind. The taxi driver looked back and said in an envious tone, this is a good car, low-key and tasteful. Su still raised her head when she heard the sound. She was sitting in the back row, just opposite the cab of the car next to her, and the two cars were only half a meter apart. I saw that the window of the cab of the opposite car was lowered by a third, revealing a pair of sword eyebrows and a pair of dark eyes. Looking up again, it was a short head. I saw the man staring straight ahead, his eyebrows slightly raised. Seems to be impatient with the bad condition of the car. He really is a man with good-looking eyebrows, Su still thought to himself, but he didn't know if the lower half of his face would disappoint her. The driver also craned his neck to look, and said enviously for a long while, you look very young, but I don't know whose young master this is. Su still believes that as a qualified beauty blogger, the most important thing is to have eyes that find beauty. She boldly looked at the opposite side, as if she wanted to stare out a hole in the black car window and look at the bottom half. The face symbol doesn't fit my aesthetic. Guyu was playing with his mobile phone with his head down, unaware of the gaze cast from the car next to him. He casually tapped the screen of his mobile phone, and a sweet female voice immediately came from inside, when are you coming? They have been waiting for you for half an hour. Su still heard clearly, she sighed with emotion, turned her head and thought, sure enough, all kinds of men like cute girls. She turned her head so fast that she didn't see the person on the opposite frowning, casually. He threw his phone on the passenger seat. The congestion in front gradually dissipated, and the traffic began to move forward smoothly. The car next to him raised the window and began to accelerate. It almost passed the taxi in a blink of an eye and flew away. The contrast was too tragic, and the rest of Su still stared at the driver. Small eyes. Su still said, Master, don't look at it, let's go. Haneda Restaurant is located in the bustling commercial street of Yangcheng, with elegant and noble decoration. It mainly focuses on high-end Western food. Su still wanted to pull the weeds out of this restaurant for a long time, but the price was too expensive and he didn't give up. Unexpectedly, Ren Jingjing helped her realize this dream in the end. As soon as she entered the restaurant, she saw Ren Jingjing on the window seat on the left, holding a menu in her hand, leaning out on her side, looking nervous, not knowing what she was looking at. She walked over, crouched down, and followed Ren Jingjing's gaze. Jingjing, what are you looking at? Ren Jingjing was startled by her, and subconsciously covered her chest. Seeing that it was Su Yanran, she hurriedly lowered her voice and said, Yet, look at the woman in the white skirt over there, on the seat against the wall, do you see who she is? Su Yiwan followed her gaze incomprehensibly. Across the two rows of tables, he saw that the woman was petite, leaning forward, wearing a fisherman's hat, covering most of her face, and only one could be seen wearing bright lipstick. Zyaka was talking to the person on the opposite side. From Su Yanran and the others, they could only see the slender figure on the opposite side in a blue shirt. They saw him leaning on the back of the chair with his right hand on the back of the chair next to him, rhythm at random. Su still shook his head blankly, who is it? Ren Jingjing covered her mouth with her hand and deliberately lowered her voice, but she sounded excited and pleasantly surprised. I have recommended to you the most popular palace time travel drama recently, and called it back to the Qing dynasty to marry the emperor. I have been chasing after her. It's the heroine in it, she is warm, kind, courageous, and resourceful. I like her very much. I took a few secret photos just now. Su still stared ignorantly with big eyes, as if he had some impression that it was a popular drama that has been highly discussed in the streets and alleys recently. Su still hadn't seen it a few times and couldn't recognize the heroine, but he knew that there were rumors on the internet that the heroine brought money into the group, squeezed out a big acting talent, and forced the screenwriter to change the script overnight. It is rumored that the backstage of this airborne heroine is a well-known family business in Yangcheng. She and the second son of Gu Shi group were photographed together, and there are photos as real hammers. Ren Jingjing was excited. I want to go to her to sign a photo, do you think she will agree? Su still pulled out the chair with no interest and sat down. Jingjing, I'm not throwing cold water on you. What you like is only her role in the TV series. It's a star, it's just selling her character. Is it worth your sincere feelings? Ren Jingjing couldn't hear her, and replied nonchalantly, it's okay if she has a name. It's Song Tianmei. I like her very much. She's so beautiful. I'm going to take a group photo. Su still flipped through the menu, but this time he didn't even look up. Then you'd better go later. You didn't see any friends across from them. Don't let them look at you, you're not feeling well. Sure enough, Song Tianmei pouted her red lips, wishing she could cross the dining table and stick to the man opposite. The man on the opposite side lowered his head, as if he was looking at his phone, turning a deaf ear. Song Tianmei's voice was greasy like a cream cake. Brother you can go with me. Gu Yu didn't lift his head. You go to shoot a magazine, what am I going to do? Let's play together for 2 days, it's like a vacation. No, I have a job. Song Tianmei was not annoyed by such a straightforward refusal, and still said, oh, what kind of job can you have? Isn't your job not to eat, drink, and play? Anyway, it's just for fun, so let's go to the United States to play together. Hearing this, Gu Yu raised his head, his dark eyes flashed, and his tone was indifferent. Sit well, you are a public figure anyway, pay attention to the influence. Song Tianmei leaned heavily on the back of the chair, and the menu in her hand rattled. This picture doesn't look good. Ren Jingjing was a little embarrassed, and went down the stairs for her idol. Maybe it's her boyfriend, isn't it all rumored that she is the girlfriend of second young master Gu? Su still raised his eyebrows, his face turned upside down with a bit of heroism, and said, I didn't say anything else, I just told you not to disturb other people's good things. Ren Jingjing felt that she was right, so she turned around embarrassingly, and the two began to order and eat. Fortunately, the food is good and the taste is good. Su Yanjing and Ren Jingjing have not seen each other for a long time, and they chatted about each other's current situation. After 3 rounds of dinner, Su was still sitting in the position where he saw Song Tianmei's seat. At this moment, the man opposite Song Tianmei dropped the napkin on his lap and walked towards the bathroom. Su still poked Ren Jingjing with his hand. Do you want to take a group photo? Yes. Of course. Ren Jingjing excitedly picked up her phone and typed a few times before she pulled her clothes and walked towards Song Tianmei. Since Gu Yu left her seat, Song Tianmei's face has fallen. She has been talking for a long time, and she has not even persuaded the other party to agree to go to the United States with her. Boring. She slashed the steak in front of her with a knife and fork. Hello, are you Song Tianmei? A timid voice interrupted Song Tianmei's thoughts. Song Tianmei is a newcomer. She immediately put on another easygoing face, and showed a professional smile at the visitor. I am. Ren Jingjing hurriedly took out her phone. I'm your fan, I like you very much, can I take a picture with you? Song Tianmei looked up and down at the passers-by in front of her, dressed in ordinary fans, and cut in her heart, but still said, yes. Ren Jingjing hurriedly turned on the camera of her mobile phone and approached Song Tianmei. The latter frowned subconsciously and stepped back. Ren Jingjing pressed the shutter and took a few pictures in a row. Can I still ask you to sign? Ren Jingjing blushed and spread out the napkin in her hand. Song Tianmei was in a bad mood and just wanted to get rid of this fan as soon as possible. She squeezed out a smile and said, yes. She took Ren Jingjing's pen and was about to write it on the napkin when Guyu came back and saw that Song Tianmei was busy, and said, "You are busy first, I'm leaving, the account has been settled." After she was about to leave, Song Tianmei hurriedly said, "Wait for me, I'll go with you. Let's talk first, I have left beforehand." After saying that, Guyu walked towards the door of the restaurant. Su Yuan saw a dark blue passing by his side, and subconsciously raised his head, just in time to meet Guyu's gaze. The two touched for a second and then staggered. Guyu is tall and has long legs, and walked out of the restaurant in a few steps. It was not easy for Song Tianmei to invite him out for dinner, so she just watched him go. If it wasn't for this annoying fan beside her, she would have chased him out. Song Tianmei was so angry and annoyed that she didn't care about expression management, and hurriedly signed her name and put the pen back into Ren Jingjing's hand. Ren Jingjing didn't see the change in Song Tianmei's face. She happily thanked her, and couldn't help sharing it with Su Still when she returned to her seat. Song Tianmei looked at them both coldly, holding her breath in her heart, picked up her mobile phone, and took a few pictures of them. Su was still aware of it, but when she raised her head, the table was already empty. She shook her head, thinking that she was wrong. After dinner, Su Still said goodbye to Ren Jingjing in front of the restaurant and took a taxi home. She was thinking about what to record in the next video. It has been 6 days since her last beauty sharing video. The finished video is cut and sent. Tomorrow, I will contact a well-known cosmetics company. The other party is very interested and asks her to do a face test for a newly launched liquid foundation. One after another, one by one, they are all piled up in Su Yan's mind. If she started recording beauty videos just for fun, then she has now chosen to be a full-time blogger until graduation. This has become her profession. Source of livelihood. Fortunately, Su still really loves sharing and makeup. She enjoys these things and never finds it annoying. When she was in college, it was just when this trend was just becoming popular. As long as she had a smartphone, she could download various apps and share her life with others. Makeup skills and bright and unyielding personality stand out from them and have a group of loyal fans. When she got home, she sent a message to Ren Jingjing as she was accustomed to, and the other party also replied that she had arrived home. Su still felt relieved and started to turn on the computer to cut the film. Editing a film is a job that requires patience and care. Su still works very seriously. It was not until 11 o'clock in the middle of the night that the cut film was sent out. After finally finishing her day's work, she felt relaxed. Before going to bed, she reported the progress of the day's work to her fans on Weibo as usual. She tapped the screen with her finger. Today, I went to a restaurant with my best friend that I always wanted to pull weeds. The taste is not bad. I attached 2 photos. There are also people who go to bed late and have worms to eat. I just uploaded the sharing of my favorite products in July. For details, click the link. I am too sleepy. Go to bed first, good night. For the protection of Ren Jingjing, only her selfie in the restaurant is attached. After all, she is also a blogger with 300,000 followers, and someone immediately commented on her, "Wow, the space is still updated, I want to see it. I want to see too. I want to see too. Oh, I've always wanted to go to this restaurant, looking at the photos is great. I still don't seem to have much makeup today, but I'm still pretty without makeup." Su was still too sleepy to open his eyes, but he still picked a few comments and replied, "Go to sleep, don't stay up late." After a few replies, she went to meet Duke Zhou at night. Su still would not have imagined that within a few hours, a storm would sweep through her world. Ring ling ling, the rapid ringing of the mobile phone rang. Su still opened his eyes with difficulty, first glanced at the wall clock on the opposite wall. It was only 6:30, and all the friends around her knew that she was a full-time blogger and would not be so early. Just get up, who will call her? She took out the mobile phone by the bedside, Without looking at it, she swiped the screen directly, her voice hoarse before waking up. Hello. Ren Jingjing's anxious voice came from the phone, with a cry, still, look at Weibo. I've been fleshed out. What's the matter? Su still rubbed his long chestnut hair indiscriminately, his head still awake. What do you mean you've been fleshed out? Look at Weibo, woohoo. Okay, don't hang up for now. She exited the call page and entered Weibo, her almond eyes widened instantly, and the fourth place in the hot search was written. Song Tianmei angrily scolded fans for not having private time. Combined with Ren Jingjing's phone call, she suddenly had a bad premonition, and sure enough, she clicked on the topic, and it was Song Tianmei's Weibo post last night. I can't make a private dinner appointment with a friend. I want a group photo and an autograph, alas. Is it really okay to disturb others like this? Public figures also need private space. There is a grieved expression on the back. The attached photo is a photo captured by Song Tianmei, with a high pixel count. Su still only shows the hem of his t-shirt, and Ren Jingjing on the opposite side is facing the camera, and the outlines of his clothes and face are clearly visible. Looking at the time of posting on Weibo, it was in the early morning. At that time, Su Still and Ren Jingjing had already gone home. On the other end of the phone, Ren Jingjing was about to cry. I read Weibo's hot searches together in the morning, and I was so confused. How could she post my photo? I posted a selfie of the restaurant where we ate yesterday. I was discovered by them, and many people under my Weibo comments are scolding me. What should I do? Still. Recently, Song Tianmei, with the popularity of the heroine in Back to the Qing Dynasty and Mary the Emperor, has maintained a high Weibo hot search index, and her fans have exceeded 5 million, becoming a veritable traffic flower. Now that the drama is not over yet, when the popularity is really high, her Weibo post received more than 30,000 comments alone. Su still frowned and looked at it, most of them scolding Ren Jingjing. Really, can't celebrities have private space? It's really incompetent to ask for a photo to sign. Xiaomei is already considered a good star, so I'll let you bother me like that? Who is this person? Search it out and let's see. There are also direct personal attacks. This woman looks so ugly, she looks like she's not young, she doesn't have any quality at all. What an ugly face. There are a few, and they can help fans speak clearly. Hanging an amateur? This, when it's not hot, I want to be hot, and when it's hot, I ask for private space. What's the trouble? Hanging an amateur, this practice is simply indescribable. The fans didn't do it on purpose, they were just excited to see their favorite stars. Just hang amateur photos like this? I think that Song Tianmei's quality is just like that. Fans don't know how sad they are when they see idols hanging pictures of themselves. As soon as the different voices appeared, it aroused the crazy counterattack of Song Tianmei's fans. After a few hours in the evening, the night owls commented, forwarded, and fermented, and successfully pushed this matter into the hot search. More good people found Ren Jingjing's Weibo, and the fans who were idle and had nothing to do moved their positions instantly. Ren Jingjing's hundreds of Weibo are usually only used to share the joys, sorrows, and joys in life. Now the comments below can't be read at all. Those fans use the so-called protecting the master mentality to criticize Ren Jingjing from clothing to personality. Differential attack. Su Still has never been a good-natured girl. The more she looked, the more angry she became. She took a deep breath, her phone was hot in her grip, and comforted Ren Jingjing. Don't cry first, just post an explanation on Weibo, and just talk about it. It's not like Song Tianmei said, saying that you didn't know what troubled her at the time, and then delete the previous Weibo, preferably delete all of them, lest they find out more information about you. Woohoo, okay. Still, you said, will they find out my work unit and home address? I'm so scared. Su is still a beauty video blogger, half a public figure, she thought about it and said, Jing Jing, don't worry, it shouldn't be, if someone asks you about you, just tell the truth, I guess it's just these 2 days. The heat, after all, is not a big hot event, no one will really pursue it, and I will do the rest. She didn't pay attention to Song Tianmei, nor did she care about the way people set up hype in the entertainment industry, but this Song Tianmei used a tone of White Lotus to make indiscretion on Weibo, put up pictures of fans, and instigated others to kill an innocent person. Outsiders, just because others disturbed her to eat with friends? Still friends? Is that just a friend? Sue still has heard of her gossip. Yesterday, Song Tianmei's coquettish gesture didn't seem like a party with ordinary friends. In today's entertainment industry, any kind of people can really mix. Yet, Ren Jingjing seemed to have reacted to Su Yanren's thoughts, and hurriedly stopped her. You don't need to come forward in this matter, really, you are a public figure, and standing up to support me at this time will be detrimental to your future development. It is said that Song Tianmei's family has a strong background, and you know that her relationship with Gu Yu is unusual. The Gu family is the most prestigious family in Yangcheng. Its industries range from real estate, shipping, chemical industry, and retail to all major industries. I heard that it is also involved in the entertainment industry, online games, live broadcasting and other emerging industries. Therefore, the second son of Chairman Gu Ming, according to rumors, Gu Yu's mother committed suicide when he was a child, and then Gu Ming put the illegitimate son Gu Lang and his mother into Gu's house in a grand manner, made a name, and let the elder 2 years old. Gu Lang took over the important business of the group and was treated as the heir, while Gu Yu was marginalized, but I heard that he didn't care either, focusing on eating, drinking, and having fun, and being a free second-generation rich. Gu Ming died unexpectedly a year ago. Gu Ming's father, Mr. Gu Qing'an, came out of the mountain again. Mr. Gu loved his young grandson and wanted to nurture it. Gu Yu gradually entered people's field of vision. But it is said that it is no use. Sue still doesn't know the risk of her coming forward, putting aside the rumors that add fuel to the scandal, and whether or not Gu Yu is as unpopular as the rumors, offending Song Tianmei. For a beauty blogger, it is definitely a disaster. No benefit. It's just her relationship with Ren Jingjing's 7-year best friend, and the latter has accompanied her through the most difficult moments of her life, even if they are sisters. Is the best friend being slandered and humiliated online, and her little influential blogger turning a blind eye? No, that's not her attitude. Then can't you just watch you being distorted and abused on the internet? Sue said softly but firmly on the phone, Jing Jing, I won't stay out of it. Ren Jingjing, still. Sue still opened her Weibo homepage and looked through the comments. There was harmony. They were all comments on the video she just uploaded yesterday. It seems that no one found that she was another protagonist in Song Tianmei's Weibo photo. After a while, Ren Jingjing posted a Weibo explaining the incident. The content was also instructed by Su Yunan, saying that she didn't want to disturb Song Tianmei and her friend's dinner at that time, but she was just a little excited to see her favorite star, so she didn't do anything about it. Behave rudely. And lowered her attitude, I hope everyone will not scold her. Su still forwarded Ren Jingjing's Weibo, saying that he went to this restaurant with her yesterday, and was present throughout the whole process, which can confirm the truth of the previous Weibo, and hope that everyone will stop abuse and human flesh. Song Tianmei came home yesterday and called Gu Yu again, but no one answered. She knew in her heart that this person wanted to keep a distance from her. She had a good family and had known Gu Yu since childhood. She secretly liked him for many years, but Gu Yu has always been measured to her, and treated her like a common man. A few months ago, Song Tianmei couldn't help asking the paparazzi to secretly take a few private photos of her and Gu Yu, and posted them on the internet, trying to force the relationship to go further. In the past, I refused to eat a meal or go out to play. Yesterday, she finally made several phone calls to make an appointment. She didn't expect to encounter annoying fans, so Guyu took the opportunity to leave. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. She was angry with Guyu, and even more so with that fan. Since she was a child, she could do whatever she wanted. Sad and pitiful. Originally, she just wanted to let the fans comfort herself and crusade that fan, but she underestimated the power of the fans, and things got worse and worse, and it became a hot search. Now, it's time to criticize her for speaking without thinking. She flipped through the comments below, and realized that there was a beauty blogger who stood up and spoke carefully. Fans are worried that it is boring to tear apart amateurs, and they will turn their guns to Su Yunyan. Su Yunyan's own fans are not to be outdone and fight back. For a while, Song Tianmi's Weibo comments began to be divided into two levels, and more people accused her of not being an amateur, and distorted the facts to gain sympathy, and fan criticism was not easy to use. Song Tianmi can't stand this. She forgot the identity of any female star, and ended up in person. She commented directly on Su Yunyan's Weibo, and said yin and yang angrily, "I say no wonder why today's confidence is better than yesterday when I had to sign autographs and take a group photo. It's more than enough." It turns out that the backstage is a famous beauty blogger. It's just that facts are facts. Celebrities also have personal space. It's terrible to influence others without knowing their mistakes. Fans became more motivated as soon as they saw the main player and ended up. Su Yunyan's Weibo retweeted nearly 10,000 posts, and he flipped through them. But as time goes by, those fans of Su still who are self-promoting in the enclosure are gradually unable to resist the ability of fans from the entertainment industry to control and criticize. Su was still sitting in front of the computer. She had just finished recording a video at this time. Her beautiful and fair face was covered with delicate makeup, and her bright lipstick added a bit of aura to her. She silently watched the video on Weibo. Commenting, he reached out and stroked his long dark chestnut hair. His face was calm, his fingers tapped on the keyboard slowly, and finally he clicked send and then locked the computer. She reposted Song Tianmi's comment, "Speaking of the backstage, who can compare to your Mr. Guyu?" Su Yiren's words were like a nuclear bomb, causing waves on the internet. No matter who the fans were, they couldn't react to this fluffy sentence. The relationship between Song Tianmi and Guyu, under the woman's behest, has been its hazy, flickering, but this rumor only exists in the streets and gossip forums, and no one has ever pierced this layer of window paper. But today, Su still stabbed him, and he pointed to the point of the problem neatly. As a star, Song Tianmi is so harsh to his fans and hurts people, so are you clean? Do you really have a position to blame others? As the matter intensified, Song Tianmi's agency finally reacted with hindsight, ordering her not to express any more opinions on the matter, and at the same time leading the sailors to end, trying to reduce the heat. Su still has attracted many passers-by to become fans because of his righteous words. He actually gained 200,000 fans in less than a day, which is also an unexpected harvest. The other protagonist of the incident, Guyu, was having dinner with his family at Gu's house at the moment. Since his father, Gu Ming, passed away, he moved out of the mansion and lived alone in an apartment in the city center. At the dinner table, Gu Qinggan sat in the main seat, Gu Yu was on the right, Meng Huizhen, Gu Lang's mother, was on the left, and Gu Yu's half-brother, Gu Lang, was sitting next to him. Different from the juvenile temperament that still remained between Gu Yu's eyebrows, Gu Lang, who was 2 years older, was tall and strong, and had a mature temperament. Looking at his face, he felt that he had a deep mind. Mr. Gu's tutoring rules are strict, and only a slight chewing sound and the collision of chopsticks and plates can be heard at the dinner table. At this time, Xiao Wang, Gu Yu's assistant, hurriedly entered the dining room and whispered something in his ear. Gu Yu heard that, frowning and looking puzzled. He stood up and said to Gu Qingming, "Grandpa, eat slowly, I'm full. Gu Qinggan nodded in agreement, but Gu Lang, who was next to him, took a sip of soup and said, "Why does my brother look so flustered? Is there something wrong?" Assistant Wang. Only then did Gu Qinggan notice Gu Yu's expression, put down the bowl and chopsticks, and asked, "Why are you panicking?" Gu Yu didn't look at Gu Lang and replied to Gu Qinggan, "I have something to do at work, so I need to make a phone call to deal with it." Gu Lang pointed to something, "What's the matter? Did you see what someone said on the internet?" Gu Qinggan glanced at Gu Lang doubtfully. As soon as the words came out, Gu Yu understood that Gu Lang must have seen the discussion on Weibo long ago, and until now, he was deliberately embarrassing himself in front of his grandfather. Gu Yu simply said generously, "Assistant Wang told me just now that online there is some news circulating, I will make a phone call and ask about the situation." Gu Lang had already turned on his phone, looked at the discussion above, and pretended to be surprised. "Grandpa, there are rumors about the younger brother and Xiaomei on the internet, and some people say that Xiaomei can act, and the backer behind him is him. The Gu family and the Song family are considered family friends. Both families know Song Tianmei's obsession with Gu Yu, but it's hard to say deeply." Gu Qinggan had also reminded Gu Yu in a side-by-side manner before, telling him to deal with it well and not to affect the relationship between the two families because of their affairs. The Gu family has a big business, and it is inevitable that people who care about it will miss him. Gu Qinggan is usually low-key and most taboo to show his face in front of the public to attract criticism. Now his expression became serious, the wrinkles on his face were all together, and he asked loudly, "Xiaohu, what's the matter?" Gu Yu stood with his hands down, the light of the chandelier hit him directly, a solemn light shrouded him, his back was straight, and his tone was calm. "Grandpa, I don't know right now, I need to investigate this news source, and I assure you that the news online will be dealt with quickly." Gu Qinggan wanted to say something, Meng Huaizhen observed her words and said, "Dad, don't be angry, I believe Xiaohu can handle it well, I will help you to rest. Xiao Lang, see if you can help your brother think of a way." Gu Lang nodded, the corner of his mouth was smiling, but there was no smile in his eyes. He looked at Gu Yu, "Grandpa, don't worry, I will definitely help. Don't think about playing all day, learn more from your brother." After all, Gu Qinggan went upstairs with Meng Huizhen's help. Gu Yu clenched his hands into fists at the seams of his trousers, he strode out, and Gu Lang stopped behind him. "Brother." Gu Yu stopped in his footsteps, and without turning his head, said coldly, "Don't call me that." Gu Lang didn't care and smiled, "Tell me if you need help." Gu Yu continued walking as if he hadn't heard him, and soon exited the gate of Gu's house, got in the car and drove away. In the car, Assistant Wang sat next to him and reported the collected information. "That's the way it is indeed Miss Song who first launched the attack on Weibo, and the friend who went with the other party that day, a little influential, fought back. And I mentioned you. Now there are all kinds of information uploaded on the internet, and the impact is very bad. I have already contacted Miss Song's company, and she will come forward to explain the situation later, but I don't know if the other party has filmed about your photos or something. If she posted them on the internet, it wouldn't be easy." Also, Assistant Wang paused, then continued in a low voice, "Miss Su posted on Weibo this morning. Until noon, the forwarding and comments were all within the normal growth atmosphere, but in the afternoon, suddenly there was one more the rhythm of criticizing the Navy Army. When you look at the page, it is a trumpet of 3 NOS. It is nothing more than where I heard that you have a relationship with Miss Song, and Miss Ji Su, and asked her if she had any photos. Could it be? I know, how could he pass up such a good opportunity to smear me in front of Grandpa?" He was talking about Gu Lang. When Gu Ming was alive, he treated Gu Lang very well. He secretly transferred a lot of business to him. After Gu Ming passed away, Gu Qinggan did not let Gu Lang take over the Gu family according to the original plan. Instead, he came out again to preside over the overall situation. Gu Qing'an's thoughts were self-evident. Now that he finally had a chance to disappoint Gu Yu, how could Gu Lang stand by? Gu Yu took Assistant Wang's mobile phone. On the screen was the Weibo posted by Su Yiren. He swiped his finger on the screen, and the comments were almost over 10,000. Most of them were fans arguing with Song Tianmi's fans. She cheered and praised her for standing up for her friends and getting involved in a scolding battle. He casually scrolled down. Most of Su's Weibo posts were selfies or appointments made by photographers. The girls in the photos were bright and moving, with good figures and different styles of clothing, but they only looked at the camera coldly. Gu Yu suddenly remembered that the beautiful girl he saw in the restaurant that day should be her. Is she an internet celebrity? Gu Yu asked. To be precise, she should be a beauty blogger. This time she posted on Weibo and gained 200,000 followers, but it shouldn't be her own hype. After all, outsiders are not sure about your relationship with Miss Song, in case they offend you. With Mr. Gu, the gain outweighs the loss. At this moment, his phone rang, and as soon as he picked it up, Song Tianmi's delicate voice came out of the phone. Brother Yu, did you read Weibo, that Su still goes too far? The company even asked me to apologize. I'm so wronged. What? Gu Yu didn't have the patience to listen to the complaints of the initiator, so he interrupted her. As Assistant Wang discussed with your company, you can send a briefing and explain. My grandfather also knows about this matter, and is very unhappy. You don't want to make any extras. How did Grandpa know? Gu Yu's eyes turned cold. Who else do you think there will be? Song Tianmi exclaimed, it's your brother again? He's really afraid that Grandpa will have a good impression of you. She liked Gu Yu, so naturally she never had a good impression of Gu Lang. He's not my brother. After all, you posted pictures of other people's friends first. Post an explanation on Weibo, and the matter will subside in 2 days. Gu Yu leaned on the seat and put his hands on the edge of the car window, subconsciously pointing his fingers. He regained the tone of the second generation of playboys. Okay, I know. I'll explain to Grandpa Gu in a few days that he liked me very much when he was a child and won't be angry with me. Song Tianmi coaxed cautiously. Then there's no need, I'll explain from Grandpa's side. Gu Yu's tone was calm and then hung up. Gu Yu then made a few calls to friends in the media circle and asked them to help reduce the popularity of the event. Originally, Gu's newly established a new media company, which also includes internet celebrity incubation. But since this company is under Gu Lang's name, Gu Yu naturally won't speak to him. After finishing the work, it was already evening when he returned to the apartment. Gu Yu took a shower and lay on the sofa to read Weibo. Song Tianmi's explanation Weibo was sent an hour ago, and he sincerely apologized to Su Yunyan and his friends. See you fans. The righteous master stated that if he wants to calm down, it is not easy to say anything one by one. On the other hand, Su still did not reply to Song Tianmi's reconciliation Weibo, and did not take this opportunity to express his high profile. This girl is quite cool. Gu Yu thought. At the same time, Gu Lang was also flipping through Su Yunan's Weibo. After reading it for a while, he called his subordinates, go and contact this Su Yunan and try to sign her. People on the internet are forgetful, and within 2 days, this episode was covered by bigger news. On the surface, it seems that Su is still benefiting the most from this turmoil. Anyone who watched the beauty video knew that she was the one who dared to fight with Song Tianmi, but Song Tianmi lost the goodwill of passers-by, and many passers-by turned black, thinking that she did not have the courage that a female star should have. But lay people only watch the fun, and those who are in the entertainment industry are the most realistic. Seeing the wind and steering the rudder is an instinct engraved in the bones of people in the industry. The major beauty brands are inextricably linked with celebrities. Su still completely offended Song Tianmi, who is in the limelight because of this. The traffic and attention brought by the latter are hundreds of thousands of her fans. As far as the bloggers can compare, it seems to outsiders that Song Tianmei lost her sense of proportion and caused trouble, but in the eyes of investors and major brands, this is fundamentally compared with the traffic and topicality she brings. Not worth mentioning. In the entertainment industry, such a fault is too small to be considered a fault at all. Song Tianmei was trained by the economic company, and she was very angry. She couldn't do anything to Ren Jingjing, so she threw her anger on Su Yunan. With her identity and background, it's not too easy to get Su Yiren, a little blogger who has not established a firm foothold. Inspired by Song Tianmei, the brands that had cooperated well in the past stood in line between the beauty bloggers and the new traffic Xia Hua. In the past few days, cosmetic companies who have already negotiated cooperation have sent notices saying that they will no longer cooperate. In the morning, Su is still editing the film, and a marketing person from a previously cooperating makeup brand sent a message, "Sorry, still, the company wants to change the promotional route for the eyeshadow I talked to you before, so our cooperation will be suspended. I'm very sorry, I asked you to design several makeup looks for this eyeshadow before." Su still has been single-handedly working together since college to achieve this result, not relying on silly Batian. She is like a mirror in her heart, but she still politely replied, "It doesn't matter, I will cooperate again next time when I have a chance." After sending the message, she was not in the mood to continue editing. She turned off the computer and looked at the sun-drenched hut, feeling a little ecstatic. When graduating, she rented this house with the first pot of gold from the video recording. It has a small apartment with one bedroom and one living room, and has a large floor-to-ceiling window. At the first sight, she saw this bedroom that could be full of sunlight on a sunny day. Su still sits in front of the bed at ordinary times, sets the camera in front of the window, and records video in the bright sunlight. In Su Yan's heart, soft natural light is better than any lighting artifact. The main income of beauty bloggers is the promotion fees of major brands, the rebate links that are usually recommended to fans, and the rewards of live broadcasts. Promotion is a big deal, which means that there is no income without promotion. However, due to the special nature of work, beauty bloggers need to continuously purchase and use new products on the market. This cost cannot be saved. Now the beauty market is too big, all kinds of newcomers emerge in an endless stream. If you can't provide fans with fresh and interesting product reviews or recommendations for a period of time, it will be forgotten in minutes. Su still leaned back on the computer chair and tilted her head back, thinking about how long her savings would be enough to live minus the cosmetics and clothes she should buy. After roughly calculating a number, she sighed deeply. "I was thinking about getting a new camera next month, but now I don't even think about it. Sitting on 500,000 fans, but not receiving advertisements to live a careful life, probably no one will believe it." If you want to ask her if she doesn't regret it, Su still answers without hesitation, "I don't regret it." Ren Jingjing's family is a family to her. She likes art and has studied Chinese painting since she was a child. She became an art student in high school, and she also wants to work in art in the future. But who can do whatever they want? When she was a freshman in high school, her parents both passed away in a car accident. She went from a carefree girl to an orphan without parents. Misfortunes do not come singly. After the news, she used some shady methods to defraud her parents of all the compensation as Su Yan's guardian. Su Yan was only 16 years old at the time, and was immersed in great grief without realizing it. When her uncle made up his mind about the remaining savings at home for the second time, it was Ren Jingjing's parents who stepped forward and drove him away. Su still remembers that the honest and kind Ren family parents said to her, "Jingjing's home will be your home in the future. Tell us if you have any difficulties." In this way, Su still gave up the path of fine arts and finished high school and university with the remaining savings at home. During this period, Ren Jingjing was in love with her as a sister, and she was even more cared for by Ren's parents. Therefore, she does not regret it, even if she is banned, even if she ends her blogger career, she does not regret it. She was just a little sad. Sue still opened the compartment of the drawer of the computer desk and opened a bag wrapped in black flannel. Inside was a family photo of a family of 3. In the photo, she was still a girl with a ponytail, and she was young and immature with a pointed chin. Because she was wearing braces at the time, her smile was very shy, and her parents were left and right in her impression. Her mother was demure and elegant, and her father was a typical intellectual. They looked at the camera calmly and gently. Even after 7 years, the deep pain never seemed to be far away from her. She was still feeling sad, and when she was disappointed in the world, she habitually sought the protection of her parents. But she could no longer hear the words of her parents. She could only stick the photo lightly on her cheek as she used to do, and rub it with nostalgia, hoping to get some comfort. As the days continued, Sue still forced herself to cheer up. She opened her mailbox. This mailbox was the work mailbox that was hung on her Weibo profile. Generally, if there was any information about seeking cooperation, the promotion staff would send an email directly. She looked through it. Most of them were promotional messages from shopping websites. Scroll down, an email seeking cooperation aroused her interest. It was sent by a company called Lang Studio, looking for her to sign a contract, and the email wrote this: it is a newly opened multi-channel self-media company, which can help the contracted authors to effectively promote and achieve future commercial realization. Seeing the signing fee, Sue Yan's eyes lit up. There are even 7 figures. Her first reaction was that she might be a liar. It doesn't feel like it. The sender seems to be afraid that she will not believe it, so he wrote the detailed company address and contact information at the end of the email, asking her to contact the company at any time or go directly to the company for on-the-spot inspection. If this was put before, she would definitely not agree. Sue still did not have contact with the Internet Celebrity Incubation Company before, but she was worried that too many conditions would constrain her creation, and she always had what she called persistence. Even if these persistence seems to other bloggers to be equivalent to big idiots who have money and don't make money. For example, if there are no products, domestic products will be carefully considered, and the promoted products will be reported truthfully. That is to say, even if the merchant spends a lot of money on her actual measurement, she will tell the truth about the effect of the product, and will not confuse black and white. Said hype and insisted on her original intention, which is why she was able to emerge as a student in the first place. Sue still glanced at the terms of the contract, feeling that the terms are quite loose, and there is still a lot of room for bloggers to play freely. Contact is always a good thing. She thought so and replied to the email, hoping to learn more, if necessary. Can meet and chat. Besides Gu Yu, second young master Gu's usual life is indeed as Song Tian Mi said, eating, drinking, and having fun is everything. Under Gu Qing'an, he has a spare job. He goes to work every day if he wants to, but he doesn't go to work if he doesn't want to. It's okay to go to work anyway. So it's not surprising to see Gu Yu gathered in a bar during the day on Great Monday, along with his gang of wealthy second-generation idlers. Gu Yu felt bored at work, so he sent a group message and called out several souls who also had nowhere to go. As usual, it is the best seat. During the day, the bar is not as violent as the crowd dances at night. The resident singer holds an acoustic guitar and sings an unnamed folk song. Gu Yu leaned on the back of the leather seat, closed his eyes, and didn't know what he was thinking. Song Hung, one of his friends, came over and poked him, looking on the internet. Gu Xiao has been searched on Weibo again. Gu Yu opened his eyes, and his tone was very mixed. Young Master Song, your news is too ill-informed, right? It's all a few days ago. The others also joined in the fun, one by one saying, I heard that it is with Song Xiaomei again. You said that Song Xiaomei is really infatuated. We all grew up together as children. Why can't she pass your hurdle after so many years? Someone started to pick up the gossip in a low voice. Could it be that our second young master is very good in a certain aspect? It's hard to forget after trying it once. After that, several people laughed maliciously. Gu Yu stretched out his foot and put it on Song Heng's lap. You people are not lacking in virtue, they are now a female star, and their words are not serious or serious. Song Heng hid back. Oops, not annoyed, of course we are not as noble as Gu Er Shao, otherwise Song Xiaomei didn't like us, right? That's right, he's also an infatuated kind. When he was in school, he had a crush, and he still liked you when he became a big star. If you want me to tell you, you can leave it and you won't suffer. Yet. From your sister. Gu Yu threw a bottle of water and was caught firmly. After the trouble was over, the routine activities began again. The manager sent over a row of girls with so much makeup that they couldn't see their true colors. Yishui's short skirts would cover their lower bodies. Several people looked left and right, and they all clicked. Sounded. When he arrived at Gu Yu, he waved his hand, you guys play, I'll leave after a while. Song Heng, why are you always so disappointing, which one do you like? Is this okay? He held a girl. Gu Yu didn't want to refuse any more, so he nodded. The girl sat next to him and asked him if he was drinking with a smile on his face. He waved his hand, you can just sit. I have to drive and don't drink. Almost everyone here knows Gu Yu, and knowing that this young master doesn't usually like this kind of thing, the girl stopped persuading him and just sat by the side. After the meeting, Gu Yu found a reason to come out, and before leaving, he helped them to settle the bills for the prostitutes in the daytime. In fact, he has nothing to do with returning to the company, but he is really tired of this kind of thing and just made an excuse. Gu Yu was driving aimlessly on the street, passing the Minghui building, and subconsciously glanced at it. At this time, out of the corner of his eye, he swept across the street to a tall girl in a one-shoulder white dress. It was a hot summer day. On that day, the sun was shining brightly, and I saw her hiding under the bus stop sign, looking at the direction of the road from time to time, as if waiting for the bus. Gu Yu drove by slowly, and always felt that the girl's face was a little familiar, as if she had seen it somewhere, but she couldn't remember it for a while. Su Yiwan watched this car, which was worth a lot of money at first glance, slowly drive past him, and it turned back after a while. The passenger's window was lowered, and the man in the driver's seat had a familiar eyebrow, and he raised his eyebrows. Want a ride? Su still froze for a moment, then immediately shook his hand and said politely, don't bother, I'm waiting for a taxi. Hearing this, Gu Yu smiled inexplicably. He put his hand on the co-pilot's seat and half-truthfully said, it's such a hot day, brother, let's give you a ride. Su still took a step back, and his tone became cold, I really don't need it, thank you. Gu Yu looked at her with an obvious defensive look in his eyes, and laughed even more, when he spoke in a serious tone, didn't you just call my name on the internet 2 days ago, why are you so cautious when you meet Big Blogger Su? He dragged the words Blogger Su for a long time, and even raised his eyebrows. He didn't say this clearly, but Su still reacted immediately, and was sure he was right, he was Gu Yu. Su still seemed to be drenched in a basin of cold water from start to finish, stunned there, not knowing how to react at all. There was only one thought in her mind, calamity comes out of her mouth. Gu Yu admired with relish the girl's face outside turning from white to red, like a red peach. As soon as the thought of cough appeared, he coughed softly. Don't be afraid, I'm not here to settle accounts with you. Gu Yu tapped the co-pilot's back with his finger lightly, I just want to get to know you. After all, you were the first to call me by name on the internet. Individual. After speaking, he quietly waited for her to respond. Su still looked left and right. There were a few passers-by walking around. It was bright and sunny. Could it be that he dared to kidnap him? She bit her lower lip, it was a blessing or a disaster, it was a disaster that could not be avoided. She took 2 steps forward, opened the car door and sat in. Yu looked at the person sitting in the passenger seat, from the slender neck and shoulders to the straight collarbone under the collar, and looked at the slender calf under the skirt. He deliberately said, "You really got in the car? Is the girl's awareness of prevention so poor now? Aren't you afraid of what I will do to you?" Sue still sat stiffly in the passenger seat, pretending to be calm and saying, "Since you already recognized me, why am I being hypocritical? Yang Cheng is so big, if you really want revenge, you can find me anyway. I can't escape it, so let's talk about it today, and we'll go our separate ways in the future." Yu started the car and listened to the girl's casual and generous words. He found it interesting, so he followed the line and said, "Well, if I'm satisfied with your explanation, we'll write off this matter. Where do you live?" Sue still pointed in a direction, and then said sternly, "Mr. Gu, you should already know what happened. After all, this is about me and Miss Song, no matter what your real relationship with her is, I shouldn't tell the story. The gossip and rumors of you being posted on the internet will indeed have an impact on your reputation." She lowered her head in the direction of Yu, bowed her head and said, "I apologize to you." Yu was startled by her seriousness. He came over after a while, smiled, cleared his throat and said, "Well, since your apology is so sincere, I'll let it go." Sue still turned his head to look at him. His tone was very calm, "Thank you." There was no hint of thank you in that tone. Yu doesn't care, but he thinks Sue is still very interesting. From the moment he got in the car, his body and spirit have been tense. He seems to be the age of just graduating from college. Neither humble nor arrogant, Yu felt like a mirror in his heart. To put it bluntly, he was just like everyone else, thinking that he was a rich second generation who eats, drinks, and plays with female stars. He smiled inwardly. The character he set for himself was quite consistent, and it never collapsed. "Why are you going to Minghui Building? Are you going to work?" Yu asked intently, looking ahead. Sue still glanced at him warily. Yu looked very aggrieved. "Isn't this the past? After that, I'll be a friend, so I'll ask casually, there's no other meaning." Sue still thought about it and said, "There is a brokerage company in Minghui Building. I'm here to sign today." She has carefully read the terms of the contract, and all aspects are reasonable. After interviewing with the company's people today, she feels that the other party is also very professional. After all, given her current situation, receiving a large amount of signing fee is tantamount to giving help in the snow, and although this is a new company, it has cooperated with many video websites and social media. Maybe soon, her career can be borrowed. This opportunity has come out of a slump, so the signing is a new beginning, and she is still looking forward to it. Yu held the steering wheel in his hand, and then asked, "Signing a contract? Could it be that you signed with Lang Studio?" Sue still didn't know what to do, and nodded, "Yes, it's this company." Yu glanced at her, still smiling, "You don't know that this building belongs to my family, and the company you signed is also my family's." "Really?" Sue still jumped up from the back of the chair, her eyes widened, her eyes filled with disbelief. "What did I lie to you for?" Sue still wanted to cry but had no tears. There were so many companies in Yangcheng, why did they just sign into the Gu family? She struggled and regretted inwardly. As soon as she offended the second young master of the Gu family, she sent it to the door to sign the contract. Isn't this just waiting for others to put on small shoes for her? Yu seemed to see through her thoughts. "Why do you regret it?" Sue still rolled his eyes at him, still not cowardly. "If you have any regrets, the signatures have been signed." Yu gave her a thumbs up, still in a condescending tone, "Amazing." Sue still gave him a sweet smile, his brows curved. Yu suddenly felt that the temperature in the car was several degrees higher. He turned his head slightly embarrassedly, and continued to look forward. Seeing him turn around, she immediately put away her smile and continued to regret in her heart. The two were speechless all the way. Arriving downstairs at Su Yanren's house, before she got off the car, Gu Yu thought about it and reminded her, "I'll give you a suggestion, stay away from your company boss, it's up to you whether you listen or not." Su still didn't understand, "Isn't the company yours?" Gu Yu put away the giggling gesture just now, and his expression became solemn. Only then did Su still realize that his eyes were dark, like an unfathomable well. But it seemed only for a moment. He seemed to realize his gaffe, pulled the corner of his mouth, and made Su still want to hit him as soon as he opened his mouth. "Don't ask why, listen to my brother's advice, and make sure you don't suffer." After he finished speaking, he turned the car around and she left. Su still stamped his feet in anger. "Who is your sister?" In the car, the smile on Gu Yu's face quickly dissipated. He looked ahead, thought for a moment, made a call, and the other party quickly picked up, "Master Gu. Gu Lang's newly opened Lang Studio, is anyone following?" "Not yet arranged." "Then arrange for someone to go there as soon as possible to check the situation." "Okay, understand. It's hard work, if there is any situation on your side, feel free to contact me." After hanging up the phone, Gu Yu pulled out a hum syllable from the corner of his mouth, "Also Lang Studio, narcissism." Although Su still felt very annoyed about signing the contract with Gu's company, but the contract lasted for 3 years after signing the contract. Apart from fulfilling the contract, she had almost no other choice, and inexplicably, she had a good impression of Gu Yu. "When I came down, I always felt that he was the kind of open-minded person who wouldn't take revenge behind his back just because someone said something bad, just like Song Tianmei." Thinking of this, she suddenly felt disappointed. She shook her head, poured all these thoughts out of her head, and then skillfully mounted the camera on the tripod. According to the contract, her future videos will be sent to the company and edited by professional editors, so she no longer needs to stay up all night to edit them, let alone rack their brains to add special effects. She didn't see the general manager of Lang Studio today, but the head of the brokerage department talked to her. Although a blogger like her does not need to work every day, she needs to attend the weekly company meeting. The head of the brokerage department also asked her to bring the video footage to her next meeting. Su is still a very serious and responsible person in her work. She thought that this was her first video shoot after signing the contract, and she had to go all out to show her good side. After all, no matter if you sign up for the Gu family or the Wang family, you end up taking a large amount of the signing fee. She turned on the camera, adjusted the parameters and modes, and showed a big smile to the camera. "Hello everyone, welcome to the still space. This time I want to share with you the brand I always wanted to try before, and I always heard about this brand. The foundation cream is very famous, I finally received it today. I want to do a test on my face, and the makeup look I shared on Weibo a few days ago. There are many fans who commented that they want to see it, I will share it with everyone today." Ren Jingjing came here after get off work. Her unit is in the suburbs. After graduation, she rented a house there. The distance is far. Usually, the two of them use the pretext of big things and small things to get together. They didn't dare to go out to eat if they succeeded. After all, they caused a lot of trouble last time they celebrated. After discussing it, they decided to eat at home. When Su still stayed at home and recorded videos, he often cooked by himself, so the materials at home were readily available. The two washed their hands and chatted while working in the kitchen. "Originally, I was talking about the signing of the company, but somehow I brought up the fact that Su still met Gu Yu." "Ren Jingjing, Gu Yu? The second son of the Gu family that you named on the internet." Su still put the dishes in the pot, and with a sizzle sound, a layer of white smoke rose above the pot. "Don't mention it, I was in his car that day, and I specifically apologized to him." "What's the matter? They're all in other people's cars." "I met by chance, the company I signed with is owned by the Gu Group." Ren Jingjing was choosing dishes, but she wanted to know more details. "Then you apologize to him, what's his reaction?" No reaction, and I don't feel like I care much about it. Ren Jingjing stretched her neck and leaned over, opened her mouth to say something, and exclaimed when she saw the vegetables in the pot, "Still, look at the pot, the vegetables are going to be mushy." Su Still hurriedly stir-fry a few times, poured it into a plate, and turned off the range hood. Why did he get distracted? Maybe because he thought of Guyu's dark eyes. She hurriedly looked at the dish, but fortunately it wasn't mushy. She picked up the chopsticks and tasted it again. The taste was really good. She couldn't help but sighed at her cooking skills. Now she was in the mood to ask Ren Jingjing, "What did you just say?" "I want to say that it seems that the gossip is not accurate at all." Song Tianmei is simply shaving her head and burdening her with enthusiasm towards the second young master Gu. "Why do you say that? What do you think?" Editor Ren began to express his analysis of human nature. If he is really with Song Tianmei, why would he be so indifferent when facing you? Anyway, you are also married to her girlfriend. People under the Liangzi. Anyway, you have to say stay away from my woman. Ren Jingjing rudely imitated the tone of a domineering president. Su Still laughed, "Forget it, I beg you, will you watch less idle dramas in the future?" 2 days later, Su Still went to the company for a meeting. She copied the materials into the hard drive. There were a lot of materials, and the progress bar walked slowly. During the waiting period, she started wearing clothes and makeup. In the impression of many fans, beauty bloggers must be every day, like in the video, as long as you go out, you will have exquisite makeup and meticulous clothing matching, which can be seen at a glance in the crowd. Actually not, let's take Su Yuran as an example. It's summer now. She usually wears casual clothes, mainly hot pants and t-shirts. She often wears a baseball cap when she goes out. The main reason is to cover up my hair that I haven't washed for 3 days, Su Still os, haha, of course there is such a situation, girls all understand it, but very few, how to do makeup is simple. Just wipe it. It is common to go out with lipstick and sunscreen, but Su is still 172 tall, and his legs are slender and long. Today is the first time she attended the company's meeting after signing the contract. It is said that the general manager will also come, so the choice of clothes and makeup should be more formal. She wore a purple silk shirt with a silky and delicate material, wide leg pants of the same material on her lower body, and 6 cm high-heeled shoes. An intellectual and professional temperament emerged spontaneously. In order to match this dress, today's makeup is her very less selected mature style, and finally painted Dior 999 Town Field. Su Still looked at himself in the mirror, smiled contentedly, cheered up secretly, put on the hard drive and set off for the company. Su Still arrived at the company ahead of schedule. When he signed the contract, he learned that this Lang studio was established just last month. There are about 10 employees. Su Still was non-committal about this at the time. She was interested in the company's promotion channels and resources, but she didn't know at the time that the group in the mouth of the head of the brokerage department was Gu. The front desk led her into the conference room. There were people sitting in 2s and 3s. She didn't know anyone, so she found a seat next to her. After a while, a petite girl, about 18 or 9 years old, with ponytails, came over. The voice excitedly said to Su Still, "Hello, are you a blogger in Still Space?" Su Still didn't know what to say. "Hello, I am." "Ah. Great, I'm Meng Kikai." "No, I mean my online name is Meng Kikai, my real name is Li Kikai, and I'm also a beauty blogger." Su Still silently looked at Li Kikai's overly thick black hair. "Well, it really looks like Meng Kikai." She hadn't heard the name, but she politely shook the other's outstretched hand. "Hello, nice to meet you." Li Kikai sat down on the seat next to her without being seen. "I really like the videos you made, really, I will start shooting videos entirely because of your influence. Just now I heard from the staff that you also signed in here." "The company, I can't believe it, it's so unexpected that I'm in the same company as my goddess, I'm really honored. Goddess? Hearing the little girl's blunt compliments, Sue still blushed, shook his hand and said, "Don't say that, have you signed with this company?" "Yes, but I have few fans, about 50,000. I just started playing for a while, and the foundation is not good. The company said that it can't guarantee what it will be." "Does the company only have 2 of us signed bloggers now?" "It should be that there are only 2 of us in the beauty department. After all, it was just established. There are other types of short video bloggers, such as food broadcasters and food bloggers." Li Kekai was very excited when she saw the goddess in her heart and thought about it. "Tell her everything you know. I heard that the company seems to have contacted some famous bloggers before, but they were all rejected. To be honest, I am really surprised that you signed with this company. Like you, there are many fans, and bloggers with their own popularity should have better choices." Li Kekai's eyes were pure and a little dazed. It seemed that she really didn't know. Sue still wanted to ask, "Meng Kekai, have you not been online recently? Don't you know your goddess, I stabbed a big basket?" She just thought about it in her heart, of course she wouldn't ask. Su Yeofis, a beauty blogger with 500,000 Weibo followers, showed a charming smile and said lightly, "I was interested in the resources and channels of this company, and the contract is signed for 3 years. We must take the long-term view. This is a company under the Gu Group, backed by the Mountain of Gu, and its future development will definitely not go wrong." "Ah? Is this company owned by the Gu family?" Li Kekai exclaimed in surprise, then covered her mouth and confirmed in a low voice, "Is it really owned by the Gu family?" "Yes, I also signed this contract when I first saw it." Sue died to face the beauty blogger replied. "Oh my god, that's great, then I must work hard. After all, Gu's is such a good platform." Li Kekai clenched her fist and made up her mind. Sue still smiled and encouraged her, "Then come on, come on." Just as he was speaking, the door of the conference room opened, and 3 people walked in from the outside. Among them, the person walking at the front was a white shirt, dark suit pants, tall and strong, and sat in the first row of seats following the pedestrians. Ren Su still met when he signed the contract, Manager Li of the brokerage department. Manager Li made a brief self-introduction, and then said, "Today, Mr. Gu Lang, the general manager of Lang Studio, came to the company. Next, I would like to ask General Manager Gu to tell you a few words." There was applause from the audience. Gu Lang stood up from the first row, walked to the podium, and said with a smile, "Hello everyone, hello all signed bloggers, I'm the general manager of Lang Studio Gu Lang, today is the first time see you all." "Gu Lang? Gu Yu?" In the blink of an eye, Sue still remembered the Gu's grievance records that he had seen on the internet in a gossip account that had been popularized in detail. She remembered that it was written that Gu Yu did not have a good relationship with the older brother who entered the door, and even refused to speak to him and his mother for several years, because Gu Yu always believed that it was him and his mother who existed. That led to Gu Yu's biological mother committing suicide. Sue still didn't take it seriously when he read it at the time, and regarded it as a gossip and secret. All Yang Cheng knew that the Gu family always kept a low profile. How can other people sort out the grievances and entanglements in this? It's just to add oil and jealousy. But looking at the high-spirited Gu Lang on the stage, Gu Yu's face with a stubborn smile suddenly flashed in front of her eyes. And dark eyes. Li Kekai next to him touched Su Yanyan with his elbow and asked in a low voice, "How do I remember that the heir of the Gu family is not called Gu Yu? Young man, have you missed school too much?" Su still glanced at Li Kekai, sighed, and said, "I'll give you a suggestion. I usually go online and read gossip, news, etc., which is good for our industry." Li Kekai said without knowing it. After the meeting, Manager Li took Su still to another small conference room, and talked in detail about the company's plans and channels for her development direction. Recently, online vlogs are very popular. Fans are eager to see the blogger's private life, going out to play, having dinner with friends, and some outfits. You can also take a picture. In addition, you can also do some. The topic of the conversation is very helpful to increase traffic and consolidate the fan base. Still, I hope you will try various types of videos. It's not that Sue still doesn't know that vlogs are very popular, but she has never tried it. When she speaks in public, she always feels that she can't let go. She hesitates a little. I always feel embarrassed while walking and chatting with the camera. Manager Lee smiled. Don't be embarrassed. Many bloggers on the video broadcast while walking, so it's still a live broadcast. You can try it out and get used to it. Sue still nodded hesitantly. The company has also arranged live broadcasts, platforms, or recommended you to participate in brand activities, and staff will contact you in the future. You can also see that the company has not signed many bloggers at present, so any resources will be arranged for you. Don't worry, we also want to play the card of still space. After chatting with Manager Lee for a while, Sue still handed in the materials. The other party said that the edited video would be sent to her mailbox in about 3 or 4 days, and she thanked and said goodbye. She had just left the door of the conference room and saw that Gulang was discussing something with several staff members. Seeing her coming out, Gulang smiled at her, and Sue still smiled back. A few staff members next to them dispersed. Gulang, Miss Sue, I saw you on stage just now, and the real person is more beautiful than the video. Sue still had a professional smile on his face. Thank you Mr. Gu for your compliment. I didn't expect Mr. Gu to be so young. Gulang, how is it? After talking with Manager Lee? Are you satisfied with the company? The smile on Su Yiren's face widened. The contract has been signed long ago, and it's too late to be dissatisfied now. Gulang laughed. Ms. Su has such a straightforward personality. Today I'm too busy to go to another company, so let's find a time in a few days for us to have a meal together. Seeing that Su was still a little hesitant, Gulang added, Miss Su, don't worry, it's a company dinner, everyone will go. Su still had no choice but to nod in agreement. Before leaving, she saw Li Kekai playing with her mobile phone in the conference room, so she went in and said hello to her. The latter jumped up and insisted on adding her on WeChat, saying that she would ask the goddess for guidance if she had any questions about filming in the future. Su Yan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He took out his mobile phone and scanned the QR code of Li Kekai's business card. After chatting a few words, he found that the other party only took the college entrance examination in July this year, and the university he was going to attend was Su Yan's alma mater. This time, Li Kekai didn't even see the elder sister from other places, and the elder sister kept calling. Although Li Kekai has a familiar personality and is too lively, she is not annoying. Su still told her that she should study hard when she goes to university. It was almost 11 o'clock when he came out of Minghui building. Su still went to the nearby supermarket to buy some snacks and stationery, and took a taxi on the side of the road. The place she was going to was a welfare home called Kinko Cao in Yangcheng. A few days ago, she accidentally saw an interview report about this welfare home on the internet. After reading it, she felt so sad that she didn't sleep well at night. The next day, I signed up according to the contact information in the report, joined the WeChat group, and became a volunteer. Green Grass is a government-run welfare home. Many children who were abandoned due to illness, or children under the age of 14 who lost their parents due to accidents, and those who lost their parents for a long time will be sent there. Welfare homes are regularly funded by the government and also accept donations from the community. In the news reports, children with different degrees of disabilities showed innocent smiles to the camera. They ate the simple meals in their bowls but cherished them as if they were delicacies from the mountains and seas. There were also a few children who were abandoned by their parents when they were young and said to the camera, "I want to go home and miss my mother, but I don't remember what my parents looked like." Sue still looked at the report so sad that she almost burst into tears. She lost her parents when she was 16 years old. Anyway, her parents left her with enough precious memories to accompany her through the countless long nights that followed. She couldn't imagine how long these children who had been abandoned and abducted from childhood would have a deep desire for their parents. At that time, she only had one thought, that is, to do her best to help them. The orphanage is a small THRESTE Western-style building. The yard is very clean, the flower beds are green, and there are flowers that Sue still can't name, and the air is fragrant. There are several swings and slides by the wall, a few children are running up and down to play, and a teacher is standing next to them talking to them. When she entered the orphanage, she met Mr. Yang, who was in charge of volunteer activities. Mr. Yang told Su Yuran that Kinko had special reconstruction teachers, cooks and teachers for preschool education. Usually there is no work here that needs volunteers to do, as long as you can often come to accompany the children, chat and play games. After all, what these children lack the most is company. They will be very happy if they can play with them. Teacher Yang pushed open the door of the activity room, and there were 4 children, aged 3 or 4, sitting on the floor inside. It looked like a man in the middle was holding a storybook to tell them a story. He happened to have his back to the door and his back was straight. At the sound of the door opening, the storytelling stopped abruptly, and the children and the man looked back at the door. Sue still blurted out, "Why are you here?" Guyu was also stunned when she saw her, and immediately reacted, with the same tone, "It's you." Teacher Yang said, "It's great that you know each other. Let Xiaowu introduce you to me. I'll go to the kitchen and have a look. Don't leave at noon today, let's eat here." Said and left. "Guyu, stop standing stupidly, take off your shoes and come in." The other children in the room turned their heads to look at her. Su still took off his shoes and sat on the periphery of the circle. Guyu closed the storybook and said to the children, "This is the new Aunt Su, please say hello to her." The children timidly did not dare to speak out, until they saw Guyu's encouraging eyes, and the uneven voice sounded, "Su auntie okay." Su still hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Hello, you can continue listening to the story." Guyu said, "Just as the story of Snow White is over, you can go play with the toys." When the children heard this, they jumped up and ran to the wall where the toys were piled up. One of the little girls wanted to stand up, but she couldn't. Guyu stretched out her long arms and picked her up from the ground, smiling. He said to her, "Xiaoen, let's go and play, or else the toys will be robbed by them." The little girl called Xiaoen, with her horns braided, nodded excitedly and anxiously, and ran forward. Su still found her footsteps staggering. Guyu seemed to see her thoughts and explained, "These children are all abandoned and grew up here. Xiaoen is the only child who is not very healthy. She has mild cerebral palsy." Su still looked at the back of Xiaoen who was struggling to reach for the toys in front of him. "Did you take her to see a doctor?" "Look, I found her the best hospital in Yangchang for treatment. Now it still has a little impact on language and motor coordination, but it doesn't affect her intelligence. It is already the best situation for recovery." After hearing this, Su still let out a sigh of relief. She looked at Guyu, who looked at the playful children with a rare tenderness on his face. Guyu noticed her gaze, turned back suddenly, and looked at her. Su was still busy staggering. Guyu looked at her inquisitively, opened his mouth and said, "Mr. Su, if you don't teach people how to make up, why do you remember this?" As soon as I talked to her, it was this emphasis, and Su still shot back, "Why, I just want to show love to the second son, but I can't do good things." "Oh, then I thank you for the children." "No, giving back to the society is my ideal." The two went back and forth. Just as you and I were choking each other, Teacher Yang pushed the door and came in. "After dinner, you two take the children to wash their hands, and I will call the ones outside." Guyu and Su still stood up and took the children to the pool to line up to wash their hands. Back in the dining room, Su still settled down for the child. Seeing that the food on the table was not ready, he went to the kitchen to help. Teacher Yang did not see her outside, and asked her to help cut sausages and make cold dishes. Su still rolled up his sleeves on the chopping board and started cutting. Teacher Yang took time to watch her knife work and was happy. Do you still cook at home? It looks very skilled. The kitchen knife in Su Yiren's hand paused, and then continued to drop. I do, I usually cook by myself. That's pretty good. Young people nowadays can cook too little. Su Yiren smiled at Teacher Yang and did not continue the topic. She neatly cut the sausage and placed it on the plate, and was about to serve it outside when she saw Guyu lowered her head and talked to Xiaoan who was sitting next to her. She asked Teacher Yang, does he come here often? Teacher Yang was busy picking up the steamed buns, and followed her gaze. Xiao is an acquaintance of ours. We have been funding the welfare institution for 4 or 5 years. Donating money and materials has never stopped. Zion. He was sent here 4 years ago, and he offered to take Zion to see a doctor, and the cost is all-inclusive. If Zion's illness hadn't been given up, he would have gone to doctors everywhere for treatment, and he would never have recovered as well as he is now. Su still looked at Guyu through the door of the kitchen with a plate in his hand. He sat quietly by the window, and the sunlight from outside shone in, casting a halo on his head. When the dishes were served, the 3 teachers and 7 or 8 children, plus her and Guyu, were full of people at the local table. Xiaoan was sitting between her and Guyu. During the banquet, Su still put a piece of meat for her and said softly, Xiaoan eats more meat. Xiaoan blinked her big eyes and stared at Su Yiwan for a while. After a while, she said inarticulately, Auntie, hello, look. Su still smiled and patted her head, and said, Zion looks good too. Guyu next to him interjected, your Aunt Su is a beauty blogger, maybe her beauty is all drawn. Su still glared at him. Xiaoan was only 4 years old, how could she know what a beauty blogger was? But a child knew how to be obedient, so she subconsciously felt that this beautiful aunt was gentle, not like a bad person, but Guyu's tone didn't sound like he was saying nice things. Zion pouted and said softly but firmly, Auntie, you look good. Su still covered his mouth and smiled. Guyu gave a hey and pretended to be dissatisfied and said, why did you defect so quickly? I've known you for 4 years, and you've only known her for a few minutes. Xiaoan was frightened by his tone, his mouth was shriveled and he looked like he was about to cry. Guyu hurriedly coaxed, oh, little ancestor, I'm just kidding you. Su still gave Zion another piece of meat. Zion is not wronged, Aunt Su will give you some meat to eat. The child's face was bright, and Xiaoan looked at the meat in the bowl and hummed heavily. Guyu. After the meal, the children were taken away by the teachers to take a nap. Su still helped Teacher Yang and the others to clean up the dishes, and they chatted for a while before saying goodbye. As soon as she left the door of the orphanage, she saw Guyu, who disappeared after lunch. He was looking down at his phone. He was tall but thin. At this moment, his back was leaning against the side of the car. The legs are haphazardly folded together. I thought you were gone. Su still stopped 2 steps away from him. Guyu raised his head. The tall girl standing in front of him with long hair was looking at him with a smile. Guyu looked at her up and down, and always felt that something was strange. It took a long time for him to react. I've known her for several days, and this seems to be the first time I've seen blogger Su smiling at me. Originally, Su still heard what Teacher Yang said about the things he helped the children, and her impression of him changed a lot. Who would have thought? How could this person be so rude? As soon as he opened his mouth, she felt that her smile was wasted, too lazy to talk to him anymore. He walked around the car and walked forward. Guyu called her from behind, where are you going? I've been waiting for you here for a long time, I'll take you for a while. Su still didn't look back. No, I'll take a taxi by myself. The orphanage is located in the suburbs, some distance from the main road. Sue is still standing on the side of the road waiting for the bus, but at a glance at the road, there is no sign of a taxi. She took out her mobile phone, opened the taxi app, and kept watching the small circle on the page slide to and fro, showing that the message had been pushed to 20 nearby taxis, but unfortunately, none of them took the order. Under the scorching sun in the summer afternoon, there was no wind around, the sun seemed to be shining directly on Sue Yunan, and within 5 minutes, she felt that her makeup was about to be tanned. She quickly took out her mobile phone and took a picture of it against the pitch-black screen. Sure enough, the eyeliner and eyeshadow at the end of her eyes had smudged marks, and the blush started to mottle, so she quickly wiped it with her hand. At this moment, the sound of starting the car came from behind. Gu Yu drove the car and slid in front of her. The window was half lowered. Gu Yu stretched out his hand to feel the temperature outside, and withdrew his hand with an exaggerated expression, saying, "It's good outside. It's hot, it's better in the car, the air conditioner is cool, it's so comfortable." Sue still looked down at his phone, thinking in his heart, "Take the order quickly, take the order quickly." Gu Yu waited for a while, and found that she didn't respond, so she changed her strategy. "I heard that sun exposure is the easiest way to get old. Tell me about a beauty blogger. If she gets sunburned, how can she teach others to make up?" In the words, Sue still quickly touched his face, and found that there were signs of getting hot, and immediately panicked. Gu Yu couldn't bear to tease her anymore. "Come up, I'll take you back." Concerning her face, Sue still stopped taking Joe, opened the car door and sat in. Gu Yu smiled silently and started the car. After seeing Su Yuran downstairs, Gu Yu turned back to the mansion to see his grandfather. At home, only Gu Qinggan was sitting on the sofa reading the newspaper, with Meng Huaizhen by his side. Seeing Gu Yu coming back, he was very happy, and he hurriedly asked Gu Yu if he had eaten. Although Gu Yu had already eaten, Gu Qinggan asked the nanny to cook lotus seed soup and said, "The lotus seeds clear the heat, go to the fire, Xiaohu, you have a drink." The nanny agreed and went into the kitchen. Gu Qinggan said to Meng Huaizhen, "Huaizhen, go to the kitchen and take a look. I'm afraid the nanny won't do well." Meng Huaizhen's face looked very unnatural, and he looked at Gu Yu before speaking, and the latter greeted her with a magnanimous gaze. She stood up from the sofa and said to Gu Qinggan, "Then you two talk first, I'll go to the kitchen to see." Seeing her entering the kitchen, Gu Qinggan asked Gu Yu to help him up and motioned him to go to the study next to him to speak. Gu Yu supported Gu Qinggan, the bones on the opponent's arm stood out, and he pressed his hand hard. "I don't know since when, the tall grandfather in my impression was already half a head shorter than himself. His cheeks were dotted with age spots, and he had never felt so intuitively that his grandfather, who was too old, was really old." Entering the study, closing the door, Gu Qinggan sat behind the large mahogany desk, took out 2 pieces of paper from the documents stacked on the desk, and handed them to Gu Yu. "Look at it." Gu Yu took it over, and the above was a discussion on the selection of general managers for Gu's Real Estate Group Co., Limited. He didn't have to look down to know what these people wanted to do. Gu's Real Estate Group's annual sales are not less than 50% of the entire Gu's Group. It has always been the economic lifeline of the entire Gu's Group. Whoever controls the Gu's real estate is equivalent to controlling the entire Gu's. After the death of the general manager Gu Ming, the deputy general manager Gu Lang repeatedly wanted to open the board of directors to discuss the candidate of the general manager. It is Sima Zhao's heart. In the past few years, the directors of the board of directors have been bought by Gu Lang. Gu Ming passed away. As long as the board of directors is held as the general manager, he will definitely let him take advantage of the loopholes and pass it with multiple votes. Resolution is almost a certainty. Who would have guessed that people are not as good as the sky? Gu Qinggan is a veteran, and the majesty of the old chairman is still there. He was stunned to suppress this matter, and Gu Lang also stopped for a while. This is wanting to make a comeback. Gu Qinggan, it's been a year, and the board meeting can't be delayed any longer. Gu Yu pursed his lips and said nothing. Gu Qinggan sighed softly, his voice sounded desolate and hoarse. Xiao, this year, I know what you are doing outside, you are not reconciled. Facing the current situation, how can I be reconciled? Gu Yu gritted his back molars, the line under his jaw tightened instantly, slashed his neck sharply, and tore off the playboy's camouflage coat. His eyes were cold but not warm, as if the opening was a gag, and he was looking for fun all day long. Gu Yu, as far away as someone from another world. He said word by word, the board meeting is about to be held. If it drags on for too long, it will cause him to be alert. At this time, I can't make a fool of myself. I'll find a way. Gu Qinggan looked at Gu Yu, and it was hard to imagine that the little meat dumpling who was pulling the corner of his shirt to buy candy 20 years ago has turned into the man who knows how to endure humiliation now. He is still old. When he was young, with his own wisdom and hard work, he built the Gu group with one hand and one foot. Unexpectedly, when he entered old age, fate no longer favored him. First, he lost his virtuous daughter-in-law, and then his only son. The successive fatal blows ripped off Gu Qinggan's spirit. This piece may be an illusion arranged by others. He just couldn't lose Gu Yu anymore. Gu Qinggan's lungs were not very good for the past 2 days, so after a few soft coughs, Gu Yu immediately asked, "How long have you been coughing, Grandpa? Have you called the family doctor to have a look?" Gu Qinggan waved his hand to indicate that he was fine, and then said, "Xiao, there is something I've always wanted to tell you, otherwise, let's just forget about it and stop checking." Gu Yu interrupted Gu Qinggan's words. He said in a very calm but unquestionable tone, "Grandpa, you don't need to persuade me, I have made up my mind, and I won't give up until I find out the truth." Gu Qinggan sighed heavily, no longer persuaded, but just reminded Gu Yu, "Gu Lang has already become suspicious of you, you should act low-key and careful." "Gu Yu, Grandpa, I understand." Gu Yu later called the family doctor. After the doctor checked Gu Qinggan, he said that there was a slight murmur in the lungs, which may be caused by the recent hot weather and the low immunity of the elderly. After the family doctor left, Gu Yu watched Gu Qinggan take the medicine and was about to leave. Meng Huaizhen said with a smile on her face, "Xiao, stay and have dinner together at night, your brother will be back soon." Gu Yu was not comfortable listening to her hostess's tone like entertaining guests, and was about to decline when Gu Lang walked in from outside, saw him there. Gu Lang looked at him inquiringly and said, "Xiao is here, let's have dinner together." "Eat it, you haven't eaten with Grandpa for several days." Gu Lang spoke, but Gu Yu couldn't continue to refuse, so he said generously, "Okay, it just so happens that Grandpa's lungs are not feeling well and he always coughs. I won't be leaving today and will accompany him." He turned his head, his eyes swept back and forth on Meng Huaizhen and Gu Lang's faces, and shouted, "Aunt Zhao." Aunt Zhao was the nanny at home, and she took care of Gu Yu when she was a child, and she was very close to him. Later, Gu's family changed. He grew up and left home, while Aunt Zhao stayed here to take care of Gu Qinggan. Aunt Zhao was busy in the kitchen at this time, and when she heard that she was asked to take off her apron and come out, Gu Yu lowered her face and said, "Aunt Zhao, you have been very careful in the Gu family for so many years, what happened recently? Why didn't you find out? Grandpa has been coughing for several days, or the medicine I asked the doctor to prescribe today, if I don't come, is it because Grandpa's illness will not be noticed and no one will care?" Aunt Zhao was startled and murmured, This, the faces of Meng Huaizhen and Gu Lang who were present instantly turned ugly. Meng Huaizhen hurriedly said, "I don't blame her, I was negligent." She gave Aunt Zhao a look and told her to go back to the kitchen. Gu Yu didn't say anything, and helped Gu Qinggan back to the bedroom to rest. After they left, Gu Lang dissatisfied and said to Meng Huaizhen, "Can't you hear what he means? Why do you always give in first? We are taking care of the family now, who is he talking to?" Meng Huaizhen motioned for him to lower his voice and said, Don't say a word, the seat has not been settled yet, this matter is indeed our negligence. Besides, everyone knows that he is most concerned about the old man, so he is saying that that's it, can he still make waves now? Gu Lang gave a cut and said sarcastically, second young master Gu can make waves in various entertainment venues such as KTV and bars. After he finished speaking, he laughed first, and Meng Huaizhen followed suit, that's okay, he's not a threat to you at all, just let him have fun outside, why are you angry with him because of these two words? After dinner, Meng Huaizhen helped Gu Qinggan to go back to the bedroom to rest first. Gu Lang sat on the sofa watching his mobile phone, and Gu Yu sat on the other side to watch entertainment programs on TV. Gu Yu absent-mindedly took the remote control to change channels, and suddenly heard a vigorous female voice from Gu Lang's phone, the makeup look I want to share with you today is the peach blossom makeup that is very popular in spring and summer. The essence of this makeup look lies in the eyes. The pink eyeshadow and blush on the top. It is said that girls will have good luck wearing this makeup, and when you meet peach blossoms, let's start. Gu Yu immediately heard Su Yan's voice, and he couldn't help but look up at Gu Lang. Gu Lang noticed his gaze, raised his mobile phone at him, and said, this is a blogger I signed recently who teaches people to make up. Speaking of which, she has a relationship with you. Gu Yu raised his eyebrows and asked casually, what is the origin? As long as Gu Lang doesn't call him little brother in a disgusting manner, then everything is fine, and the two of them can still talk for a while. Gu Lang pretended to have no intention of saying, this girl is the one who called your name online last time and said you were Song Tianmi's backstage. Gu Yu let out a wicked smile, the corners of his mouth raised, looking ruffian and bad, he turned the remote control in his hand, and said, why, then you deliberately signed her to disgust me. Gu Lang laughed, he would not admit that he really meant it at the beginning, he said duplicitously, of course not, I only knew her because of your incident. I feel that she is very hardworking and has great potential. Just signed. This is true. In the beginning, he did use Su Still to make Gu Yu feel uncomfortable, but later, he had other thoughts about Su Still. This is not difficult to understand, Su is still young and beautiful, and he is straight, so it is not unusual for Gu Lang to take a fancy to him. Since Gu Lang changed his body a few years ago, from an illegitimate child who was despised everywhere to a powerful young master Gu, the women around him have never stopped, from unknown internet celebrities to 18th-tier young models. As for the big flowers and small flowers in the entertainment industry, there are all kinds of applications, and there is only one standard. Gu Lang didn't seem to know how to fall in love normally. He chased after the one he liked, sugar-coated cannonballs were fired together, and he got tired of it within 2 days after he got it. After breaking up, he would give some monetary compensation or throw in some resources. Each takes what he needs, not the heart but the kidneys. Gu Yu's eyes narrowed, he changed his posture, leaned on the back of the sofa, and asked carelessly, what? Did you like it? Being able to take a fancy to Su Yuran, on the other hand, Gu Lang's aesthetic has finally improved a bit. The video was still playing, and Su Yan's voice came from Gu Lang's phone, first use a brush to apply eyeshadow, don't use too much, it's easy to be heavy, and then gently spread it evenly on the eyelids, like this. Gu Lang lowered his head to look at the person on the screen of his mobile phone, with bright eyes and white teeth. At this time, Su Yiran was closing one eye and brushing eyeshadow, occasionally smiling playfully at the camera. His heart tickled, I'm interested in her. Gu Yu sat up abruptly, he immediately reacted to his gaffe, and cleared his throat unconsciously. Fortunately, Gu Lang was immersed in the screen of his mobile phone and didn't notice it. Gu Yu, if you like it, follow it. Only then did Gu Lang raise his head, and Gu Yu thought to himself, I read that right, but there was a hint of shyness on Gu Lang's face. Gu Lang, I met this girl once in the company, and it feels very different. She has a very special temperament, not only her beauty. He seemed to be very embarrassed about what he was going to say next. and whispered, "You must have a way of chasing girls, or you can teach me, what would a girl like her like?" Hearing this, Gu Yu became irritated for no reason. He suppressed his impatience and said, "Who did you listen to?" Gu Lang didn't answer, and continued, "I'll make a move, I'm going to make an appointment for a meal or something." Gu Yu didn't notice it himself, his brows were already wrinkled, and he spit out 2 words, "As you do." Then, as if thinking of something, he added, "I never took the initiative to chase a girl." It seems that adding this sentence can pull a game back. Gu Lang didn't care. In fact, he didn't care much about the situation of this younger brother, and he was regularly reported by the people below. He said perfunctorily, I know, it's all women who take the initiative to chase you. For example, Song Tianmei is one of them." 1. Gu Yu opened his mouth, wanted to refute and swallowed his words. Following Gu Lang's words, he said sullenly, "Of course, but I haven't promised her yet. After all, men don't want to be too early. Settle down." He stood up and gave Gu Lang a you-know look. Gu Lang laughed at him for being heartless, but he nodded with a smile on his face. Gu Yu strode up to the bedroom upstairs. Gu Lang also took his mobile phone back to his bedroom, and the two walked with their backs to each other. Gu Yu passed by the kitchen and saw Aunt Zhang working in it. He turned around and saw that Gu Lang had disappeared at the end of the corridor. He turned around and entered the kitchen. Aunt Zhang saw that it was him, and continued to clean up with her head down. Gu Yu said in a low voice, "Aunt Zhang, what I said just now, don't take it to heart." Aunt Zhang nodded, and the work in her hands continued. After a while, she whispered, "I know, you're not rushing at me." Gu Yu was dumbfounded. Aunt Zhang turned around, took off the cleaning gloves on her hands, and gently tugged the hem of his wrinkled shirt just now, just like she had helped him get dressed countless times when he was a child. Gu Yu looked at the wrinkles on her face and the drooping corners of her eyes. Since when did everyone get old? Grandpa is, so is Aunt Zhang. The only 2 people in the world who grew up with him are old. Xiaohu, I understand, I understand. Aunt Zhang's words became lighter and lighter, but Gu Yu could hear every word clearly. He nodded and walked out of the kitchen. Aunt Zhang's almost inaudible voice came from behind, "It's a good home, if you don't have it, it's gone." Gu Yu's eyes became hot in an instant. He didn't dare to listen anymore, and quickly went up the stairs. After entering the room, he closed the door, leaned behind the door, and stood up slowly after a long while. He has lived in this room since he was a child until he grew up. Over the years, the furnishings in the room have not changed much. There is a bathroom on the right side of the door. Walking in, there is a mahogany double bed with clean and tidy quilts and sheets. Gu Yu knew that Aunt Zhang was helping him to wash regularly, even though he hadn't come back to live in a year. A mahogany carved wardrobe stands beside the bed, and ahead is a bookshelf and his desk. There are books he likes to read on the bookshelf, a beautiful globe on the desk, and a photo frame upside down on the table. He picked up the globe and turned it around. This globe was given to him by Gu Ming when he was a junior high school geography student. It is said that it was custom-made from abroad. Gu Yu put down the globe and picked up the upside-down photo frame. On it was a family of 3. His father, Gu Ming, and his mother were on either side. In the middle, Gu Yu, who was about 10 years old, put his arms around his parents' shoulders. With trembling hands, Gu Yu gently brushed the faces of his parents on the photo frame. A huge sadness enveloped him in an instant, getting tighter and tighter, and he couldn't even breathe. The originally happy and harmonious family of 3 turned out to be only himself. He stared at Gu Ming, who was very polite in the photo, and thought to himself, "Did you ever think of this day?" Gu Ming is not as ruthless as the gossip rumors say, cheating, forcing his wife to death, letting the mistress and illegitimate son swagger into the house, marginalizing his own son, perfectly interpreting the saying, "If there is a stepmother, there is a stepfather." On the contrary, Gu Ming's life can be said to be living in the shadow of Gu Qing'an. Gu Qing'an started from scratch, has courage and talent, and his work style was very aggressive and strong when he was young. Over time, he brought this style to the family. Grandma Gu Yu died of illness early. Gu Qing'an never remarried in his life, so he pulled Gu Ming up. At that time, when the Gu group was expanding its business territory, Gu Qing'an had no time to take care of Gu Ming, and he could not even listen to him patiently. But he was stingy to pay his father's love, and there was only one requirement for Gu Ming, and that was to be obedient. If you listen, you can get everything. From small to basic, to marrying a wife and having children, Gu Qing arranged everything for him. Under the long-term high-pressure education policy, Gu Ming gradually became cowardly and silent. Wherever there is oppression, there is resistance. The conflict finally broke out when Gu Qing'an asked him to marry another girl from a scholarly family. Gu Ming blushed and clenched his neck and shouted, "Why do you have to listen to everything? Marriage is a major event in life, can you let me be the master?" At that time, Gu Qing'an had just passed the year of destiny, and he was sitting on the Gu family, which was regarded as the mainstay by the Yangcheng government. He spoke with full of energy, "I am your father, can I harm you? Youngest daughter of the Zhang family, you. I've seen it before, she's knowledgeable and gentle, and she's a good candidate for a wife. Can marriage be hasty? How can you get married without feelings? Have you ever thought about it for me?" Gu Qing'an raised his voice, "Naughty, you are my only son of Gu Qing'an, and the only successor to the Gu family. Some things are inherently involuntary. Born in the Gu family, you must focus on the overall situation. Does the overall situation matter at the expense of personal happiness? What's the point of such a life?" Gu Ming seemed to use up all his strength, throwing out these words and rushing out. Gu Qing'an was so angry that he swept the cup on the coffee table to the ground, and his subordinates rushed forward to ask if they needed to send someone to stare at Gu Ming. He waved his hand, "No, let him reflect on himself." Gu Ming went out of the house, wandered aimlessly on the street, and walked to a dance hall, which was a very fashionable place in the 1980s. Gu Ming is usually followed by people when he goes out, and even what he does is reported to Gu Qing'an. He has never had a chance to go in and take a look. That day, he walked in unexpectedly. On that day, he met Meng Huaizhen. At that time, Meng Huaizhen was in her early 20s and was working as a waiter in a dance hall. Gu Ming, who was slightly drunk, couldn't take his eyes off the first time he saw her. What followed was a cliché one-night love story. The two spent one night. The next day, Gu Ming woke up and regretted it, but Meng Huaizhen took the initiative to say that it had never happened, and went with him casually. Goodbye. Gu Ming thought about it for a long time that day, and finally returned to Gu's house, because he finally understood that without the Gu family and without Gu Qing'an, he was nothing. He had lived for more than 20 years, and the greatest glory was given to him by Gu Qing'an. Gu Ming began to meet Zhang Shu according to the plan of taking care of Qing'an. He did not expect Zhang Shu to be a gentle and virtuous girl. After several contacts, Gu Ming really fell in love with her, and their relationship grew day by day. And got married the following year. The married life was happy and peaceful. With Gu Yu, the family of three was happy and happy. The Gu family had successors, and Gu Qing'an was even more overjoyed. At that time, the media and news were not developed, and the lives of the Gu family members were like a mystery to ordinary people. Until one day, a reporter who followed them for a long time photographed Gu Ming and Zhang Shu at the school gate to pick up Gu Yu after school. The news is attached below. Shang Gu Yu ran out of the school gate, while Gu Ming held Zhang Shu's shoulder and waited for the photo outside the gate. It looks like a happy family, really enviable family. The pixels of the photo are not high, but Meng Huaizhen could see at a glance that the man who was said to be the general manager of the Gu group once spent a good night with her. Meng Huaizhen looked around the cramped staff dormitory where she lived, and her son's whitewashed sneakers standing in the corner, and threw the newspaper in her hand on the ground. Different from Zhang Shu's family background, she had no parents and no mother, dropped out of school early, and worked many jobs as a dance hall waiter and beer salesman. After giving birth to a child, her life was even more difficult. Meng Huaizhen looked for the big brother she knew on the road, and sent the news to Gu Ming around the corner. It happened before his marriage, and now Gu Yu is in elementary school. If it wasn't for this sudden information, Gu Ming would have almost forgotten about it. He would doubt it, think twice, and decide to go to the appointment. On the day of the interview, Gu Ming recognized at a glance that the woman opposite was the one from that year. When Meng Huaizhen handed over the child's photo, he looked at the child in the photo with similar eyebrows and eyes, and he panicked instantly. He knew how much this incident would affect his family and the Gu family, so he subconsciously told Meng Huaizhen not to tell others. Gu Ming began to send money to Meng Huaizhen's house, change houses, and find a school for his child. He believed that, as a father, he could not help but take responsibility for this child. But Gu Ming didn't know that Meng Huaizhen wanted more than this. She changed the child's name from Meng Lang to Gu Lang, and after finding out the news, she stopped Zhang Shu when she was shopping. When Zhang Shu came back that day, she sat on the sofa for a long time, and didn't even hear Gu Yu coming back to say hello to her. At night, when Gu Yu was about to sleep, she heard Zhang Shu's suppressed crying from her parents' room. "How can you do this? Are you worthy of me? Are you worthy of Xiaoyu?" Gu Yu jumped out of bed, stood at the door of Gu Ming and Zhang Shu's room, and heard Gu Ming's anxious and irritable voice, I'm sorry, I really don't know." The young Gu Yu thought it was just an ordinary quarrel. Although there have been few quarrels between parents over the years, it is not that there have been any quarrels. He adhered to the principle of children can't participate in the affairs of their parents, and went back to sleep after standing in front of the door for a while. But he didn't know that from that day on, fate stretched out that omnipotent hand and turned his world upside down. The fact that her husband had an illegitimate child outside was a huge blow to Zhang Shu, who had a smooth life and regarded her husband and children as the world. She began to feel depressed and suspicious. As long as Gu Ming came back from get off work late, she would be restless, and as soon as she saw Gu Yu she would cry, and Gu Yu didn't even say the reason when she asked her. All she thought about was why life was so unfair to me. The cowardly Gu Ming had never experienced such a difficult situation. He dared not tell Gu Qinggan that he was caught between two women every day and didn't know what to do. Rationally, he would definitely choose Zhang Shu and Gu Yu, but he thought Gu Lang it is also his child. He has suffered so much outside these years. There is no reason for the children to bear the mistakes of the adults. A few months passed, and the atmosphere at home became more and more solemn. Zhang Shu was diagnosed with depression and started taking medicine. Gu Mingjian promised that he would never meet Meng Huaizhen again, but he lied. On that day, Meng Huaizhen planned to trick Gu Ming out of the meeting, and told Zhang Shu about it. When they met in the restaurant, Zhang Shu saw. Desperately, Zhang Shu committed suicide by swallowing sleeping pills. Only then did Gu Ming confess all this to Gu Qinggan and Gu Yu. For many years after that, when Gu Yu recalled that day, he always felt that it was a dream. Ming knelt in front of him, his grief face opened and closed, he seemed to have lost his ability to think, and he couldn't understand every word Gu Ming said. Gu Ming said, "It's my fault, it's me who hurt Xiaoshu." Gu Qinggan was so angry that he picked up his cane and beat him. "You are confused, how can you be at the mercy of a woman outside who doesn't know where she came from? How can I explain to the Zhang family?" Gu Qinggan was trembling with anger. He pointed at Gu Ming and burst into tears. "You made Xiaoyu lose her mother, he is only 14 years old." Gu Ming stood up and hugged Gu Yu suddenly. Gu Yu was staggered by him. Gu Ming's tears fell on Gu Yu's hair. "Cool, Gu Ming, Xiaoyu, it's my father's fault, it's my father's fault, can you forgive my father, okay?" Gu Yu pushed Gu Ming away with all his strength, and walked out without even looking at him. Gu Yu moved to his grandfather's house and never went home or talked to Gu Ming. The father and son officially broke up. 2 years later, Meng Huaizhen and Gu Lang moved to his former home. Gu Qinggan, who got the news, was so angry that he was speechless. The 16-year-old Gu Yu said to Gu Qinggan with firm eyes, "Grandpa, don't worry, what belongs to the Gu family, I won't give him a penny." He gritted his back molars, "Just wait until I grow up." Gu Ming didn't wait for him to grow up. To be exact, Meng Huaizhen and Gu Lang didn't wait for him to grow up. When he came back from abroad after graduating from university, he realized that Gu Lang was already in a high position and mastered all the important businesses of the Gu family. Become Gu Ming's confidant. That day, Gu Yu knelt in front of Zhang Shu's tomb all night. Gu Yu lay on the bed, watching the little moonlight shining through the gaps in the dark blue curtains, closed his eyes, and fell asleep, unable to think about his memories. He has more important things to do tomorrow. Gu Yu had a dream. In the dream, he was drinking in a bar and was arguing with Song Hung and the others. When the phone rang, he picked it up and saw that it was Gu Ming. In the 2 years since he returned to China, Gu Ming tried to save his father and son several times. Gu Yu didn't give him a chance. He hung up the phone without hesitation. After a while, Gu Ming called again. Gu Yu frowned and picked it up. Before he had a seizure, he heard Gu Ming's flustered tone. Said, "Xiaoyu, I want to tell you a piece of news, very important news, your brother." The demons around Gu Yu danced wildly, unable to hear what Gu Ming was saying. Hearing Gu Lang's name vaguely, Gu Yu's half-closed eyes opened quickly. He walked out of the box and leaned against the wall of the corridor. There was also a lot of noise from Gu Ming's side. Gu Yu frowned and asked, "What did you just say?" Gu Ming's voice was intermittent, and he said loudly, "Go to me, the office, your brother." Gu Yu's heart suddenly beat very fast. He had a hunch that Gu Ming would tell him some very important news. He waited patiently, waiting for Gu Ming to make less noise. It's just that he could never wait. Half a minute later, there was a loud noise on the other end of the phone, so loud that it almost shattered Gu Yu's eardrums through the phone. Gu Yu's whole body's blood rushed to the top of his head. He clenched the phone tightly, his voice trembling uncontrollably, "Dad? Dad? What's wrong with you? You talk." Since Zhang Shu's death, Gu Ming has never heard Gu Yu call him Dad again. He will never hear it again. Gu Ming died in a car accident that day, and this phone call to Gu Yu was his last voice in the world. Su still was surprised when she received Gu Lang's call, but then she realized that he was the boss of the company, and it was not easy to know her contact information. Gu Lang asked her on the phone if she had time tomorrow night. Lang Studio was going to have the first dinner for all the staff, and hoped that she could attend as a member of the company. Although his words are very polite, there are no shortage of "excuse me, can you," etc., but his tone is unquestionable, with a faint sense of oppression. Su remained silent for a while, then smiled and said to the phone, "Since President Gu personally called to invite, I will definitely attend." Gu Lang also smiled, "I just sent you an application to add a WeChat friend, and I will send you the hotel address later." Su still, "Okay, I'll take a look now." She turned on the amplifier, swiped to the WeChat page, and passed Gu Lang's friend request, "Just let Manager Li inform me about this, don't bother you." Gu Lang, "No trouble, do you need me to pick you up?" This, Su still clasped his fingers on the edge of the computer desk, his smile seemed to freeze on his face, "No need, I can go over by myself." Gu Lang realized that he was a little too hasty. He smiled twice to cover up his embarrassment, and then said, "See you tomorrow." "See you tomorrow." Su still hung up the phone and stared out the window in a trance. She sensed something from Gu Lang's phone, but she wasn't sure what she was thinking. In the early days of her making videos, she could often meet so-called company bosses and brand company promoters, who gave her clicks and barrages, as well as those who sent large sums of gifts on live broadcasts, and those who bought fans for her on Weibo. At the beginning, Sue still thought that her popularity had skyrocketed, and she was very happy, until the other party sent a private message on Weibo, and usually wrote, "These things are regarded as meeting gifts, can you give me the contact information to get acquainted? Or else even more powerful, call directly, come out and have a meal together, this promotion is yours." Sue still knows that at this time, rejection should be straightforward, and the more sloppy it is, the more trouble it will bring. In the past, she could say to the phone with a smile, "Thank you boss for your appreciation, but I'm busy doing another promotional video now, your product. I don't have time to pick it up, why don't you go find another beauty blogger?" Then he added, "I'm sorry to accept your gift for not helping, or you can give me an account and I'll transfer it back to you." You don't have to say it to death, the other party naturally understands what she means, and she doesn't want the money, just be a friend. Sue still smiled and said, "Then I will donate it to children in poor mountainous areas in your name." She did what she said, and really converted these gifts into money and donated them to those in need through the online donation platform. However, Gulang is different from those who had intentions in the past. Gulang is her boss, and Sue is still his contracted blogger. If this relationship is not handled properly, it will be very troublesome, and maybe she will have to deal with her. Business has a great impact. Step by step, she smiled at the vanity mirror. In the past 2 days, Gu Yu has been very busy. The notice of the board meeting has been distributed to all directors and supervisors. The meeting is only 10 days away. If he wants to prevent Gulang from being elected as the general manager of Gu's real estate at the meeting, he must advance in advance. Open up the relationship. Gulang's eyeliner was everywhere in the company. He didn't dare to startle, and after looking at the list of directors for a long time, he picked up his mobile phone and made a call. Since Song Tianmei was listed as an amateur last time, the company has strengthened her control over her speech. She is currently running activities in various places while the popular drama is being shown. Too busy to harass Gu Yu. Song Tianmei was on the platform for a cosmetics brand in Shanghai. Between breaks, she sat on a chair and was drinking the health soup bought by her assistant. While drinking, Gu Yu's phone call came in. Song Tianmei's eyes lit up instantly, as if this was the first time Gu Yu had called her on the initiative since she confessed to Gu Yu. Song Tianmei picked it up excitedly, "Brother Yu." Gu Yu's voice was calm, "Xiao Mei, do you have time now? I have something I want to ask you for help." Song Tianmei tried her best to suppress her excitement, "Why are you being polite to me? If there is anything I can help, just say it directly. I want to ask Uncle Song to talk to Uncle Ji. I want to meet him. In the past 2 years, I was ignorant and had a misunderstanding with Uncle Ji. Gu Yu's circle of friends has grown since childhood. His elder's business spreads across all walks of life in Yangcheng. Song Tianmei's family is in the clothing business. Although Song Hung shares the same surname as Song Tianmei, the two families have no kinship. Is doing import and export business. There are also those who do retail and open a law firm. Relationships are intertwined. Basically, if someone needs any help, just talk in the circle. Even if you can't help directly, you can build a relationship line for those who need it. Among them, the Gu group is the largest. From Gu Qinggan to Gu Ming, the Gu family has always been the core of this circle. They often provide help to companies and enterprises in need, and regularly organize Yangcheng Entrepreneurs Reception to provide communication for everyone. A platform for communication, and has a particularly good reputation, and is deeply respected and welcomed by people in the circle. Among them, Song Tianmei's father is Song Ping, and Ji Zhen, the major shareholder of the Gu group, has a good personal relationship. Since Zhang Shu passed away, it didn't take long for Gu Ming to consciously bring Gulang to attend events. Song Ping and Ji Zhen had repeatedly persuaded him to keep a low profile, and don't forget that he has a biological son abroad. But others couldn't say it deeply. After several times, Gu Ming still went his own way, and Song Ping and Ji Zhen secretly criticized. After Gu Ming passed away unexpectedly, Gu Lang tried to contact the entrepreneurs he knew at the previous cocktail party, but the people in the circle declined his invitation to reopen the entrepreneur cocktail party after Song Ping and Ji Zhen's instigation. Gu Lang understood that this was a disapproval of his identity. Over time, he no longer insisted, and gradually faded out of everyone's sight. When Gu Yu first returned to China, he saw that Gu Ming trusted Gu Lang, and Gu Qing'an was put on hold, and his ideals and ambitions had nowhere to stretch. Ji Zhen had approached Gu Yu privately, comforted him, and cheered him up. Back then, Gu Yu was immersed in the grief and anger of not being able to avenge Zhang Shu, but he contradicted Ji Zhen ignorantly. From now on, he doesn't care about the family's affairs. Gu Yu thought about it. Gu Lang couldn't get through this road, but he was a legitimate descendant of the Gu family. Those entrepreneurs in the circle were either uncle or uncle back then, maybe he could try again. Song Tianmi's delicate voice came over, "You can help you, but you have to promise me a condition." "What conditions?" "When I'm done with this, go out to play with me." He didn't understand what Song Tianmi meant. Gu Yu frowned, "Xiaomei, this really doesn't work." Song Tianmi hummed and said dissatisfiedly, "If you don't agree, forget it." Gu Yu sighed, "Forget it, I will personally go to Ji Shusha to make amends and see if he can forgive me." As he was about to hang up the phone, Song Tianmi hurriedly said, "Then stay with me for a day, just the two of us, just eat and watch movies, okay?" Gu Yu didn't answer. Song Tianmi continued, "I know you're hiding from me, we grew up together anyway, this is not too much of a request, we used to hang out a lot, you still called me little sister, why? The older you get, the better you are." Her voice became lower and lower, with obvious loss. Gu Yu has a gentle personality. He has been influenced by family education since childhood and has good manners. There are few girls in the circle. He has really treated Song Tianmi as his sister since he was a child, and he takes good care of him. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is a real sister. "Gu Yu, that's fine, but this time you can't ask reporters to take pictures of me secretly." Song Tianmi was so happy that she almost couldn't hold her phone. "It's settled, I'll call my dad now, wait for my news." "It is good." Song Tianmi rubbed and soaked Song Ping for a long time. Song Ping had no choice but to call Ji Zhen. Ji Zhen was playing golf. "Listen, I'm not going." Song Ping laughed loudly, "You're really angry with a child. If you don't care about his face, you should also care about his father's face. No matter how bad it is, there is still Mr. Gu." Ji Zhen swung his club and hit a good shot with a whoosh sound. He was in a much better mood, and said into the Bluetooth headset, "Then give him some face." Song Tianmi sent the news of the success to Gu Yu, and he quickly asked Assistant Wang to order the restaurant. He thought, maybe things will turn around. Sue still smeared eyeshadow in front of the mirror. Tonight is the day of the company dinner. She chose a long black suspender dress, made of silk fabric, which fit smoothly on her body. She showed a beautiful back and butterfly bones. The curves are unobstructed at a glance. Sue still doesn't follow the route of a cute girl. She looks elegant and heavy makeup is more suitable for her. Her dark chestnut hair and red lips don't look very bright. Sue still took a taxi to the restaurant of a famous five-star hotel in Yangcheng, and entered the private room under the guidance of the waiter. Several staff members had already arrived. After she greeted one by one, she sat in the seat next to Manager Li of the brokerage department. Gu Lang hadn't come yet. The staff gathered together to chat in twos and threes, and Manager Li also chatted with Su Yiren. The topic was nothing more than whether you liked the new video editing method, and the company received a few promotions for her. Su still replied politely. This is the private room door being pushed open. Li Kekai pushed the door open with her school bag on her back. She looked around and saw Su Yuran, her eyes lit up, and she hurriedly sat over. Next to Manager Li's eyebrows wrinkled, he glanced at her dissatisfied. Li Kekai didn't mind, and praised without hesitation, "Goddess, you are too beautiful, how did you put on this makeup?" Still so enthusiastic, Su is still a little embarrassed to be called a goddess in front of the whole company. "I can teach you later." Li Kekai nodded heavily, put down her heavy school bag, and Su still asked her, "Has school started? Are you still getting used to college?" Li Kekai shook off her thick hair like Meng Kekai and said, "Don't mention it, we are in military training right now, and I finally took a leave of absence. I'm getting sunburned every day." She took out the screen of her mobile phone to look at her face and said worriedly, "Do you think I'm getting a tan?" Su still felt that Li Kekai was lively, cheerful, and very likable, so he deliberately teased her, "It seems a little bit, why don't I recommend a sunscreen for you?" "That's great." They were chatting when Gulang walked in, and the employees stood up one after another. He waved his hand and said with a smile, "I'm sorry to be late, everyone sit down quickly. Let's have dinner today, everyone can relax." The food was served quickly, and during the banquet, employees stepped forward to toast Gulang. Gulang was very good at drinking. When it was Li Kekai's turn, she just stood up when Gulang smiled and said, "I heard that Kekai is only 18 years old, so stop drinking." Li Kekai thanked Gulang, only to see that the latter's eyes were straight at Su Yiran. Su Yiran couldn't drink enough, and he only poured a glass of beer, not to mention this kind of high-level liquor. Su still looked at Gulang and said, "President Gu, I'm not very good at drinking, can I use tea instead of wine?" Gulang looked at her with a smile, when someone on the table said, "It's too unreasonable to offer tea to the boss." Some people echoed maliciously, "That's right, blogger Su, don't be modest." Gulang still looked at her with a smile, without any intention of speaking. Su still gritted his back molars, knowing that the wine could not escape today. She picked up the wine glass bravely and poured some white wine. Someone shouted, "Pour more, it's too little." Su still glanced at the man and poured out half of the white wine glass. She stood up, walked up to Gulang and said, "Mr. Gu, I respect you." Gulang drank a lot tonight, and his face was flushed. He looked at Su Yanyan from the ground up and down, and upon seeing this, several staff members at the table whispered a few words. Gulang picked up the wine glass to clink with her, "I wish you an early day to become the most famous video blogger." Su still responded with a smile, "I wish Lang Studio better and better." After she finished speaking, she drank all the wine in the glass, and the spicy white wine flowed all the way down her mouth, making her want to cough, and Su still wrinkled brows, she held back her mouth. Gulang looked at her with an inexplicable smile on the corner of his mouth. He also raised his head and drank all the wine in the glass.